Hi collective, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am the Nosy Witch and this is my channel, Nosy Witch Tarot. This reading is titled Fears That You Have Carried Over from Your Past Life. What fears from your past life are holding you back? But I also want this reading, as usual, to be uplifting. So also, how are you overcoming these fears in this life, in this version of you? Now, I do just want to say that this reading was suggested to me via a comment that was left on one of my recent videos. So thank you very much to that commenter for making this suggestion. I decided to go with this idea. I really loved this idea. And although the reading might touch on certain darker topics, and again, if you are not comfortable with these darker topics, please don't feel under pressure to listen to the reading. If there's anything in here that you feel is going to trigger you, I will put a little sort of content warning, trigger warning in the description when I have done all the readings. However, like I say, I do also want it to be uplifting and empowering. So I do want to kind of go down the route of not just addressing these fears that you might have carried over into this life from a past life, but also how are you stepping into your power by overcoming these fears? What are you doing to try and change this situation? So again, thank you very much to that commenter, and if any of you watching, listening, commenting, if you have a suggestion of videos you would like to see me do going forward, I would really appreciate any suggestions you have going forward. I just appreciate you guys being here so much, and obviously I want to provide the kind of content that you actually want to watch and you actually enjoy. So any suggestions will be more than welcome. Now, I also do realize that, not everyone identifies with having a past life. We all have different beliefs, and that is absolutely fine. If you do not identify with having a past life or anything like that, you can interpret this reading as fears carried over from a past version of you, and how is this version of you overcoming those fears. So however it applies to your personal belief system, however it applies to you, that's how I want you to take it. It doesn't have to be necessarily a past life. It could just be you in another iteration, you in a past version of you, let's say. However you would like to interpret this reading is absolutely fine by me. I am welcoming and respectful to all belief systems, and you are all very much welcome here, regardless of what you do or don't believe. Little disclaimer here / apology. One of my neighbours is doing some building work in their backyard, so there might be a little bit of noise in the background. I will try and reduce the background noise while I'm editing, but if you can hear sort of bangs and things going on, I can only apologise. There's not much I can do about the noise. The window is closed, so I might get quite warm in here, but yeah, that's all I can do. So again, apologies for that if it is annoying. Hopefully it's not. Please try to ignore it as best you can. Also, another little disclaimer, something that I just want to briefly mention now, as I know it'll probably come up or it could potentially raise some questions. I currently have a plaster on my wrist. This is nothing untoward. The plaster is covering up a tattoo. Now, it's not that I dislike the tattoo or anything like that, and I don't want to show it. It's not for that reason that I dislike it. I mean, it's not a good tattoo, but it's just that the tattoo contains identifiable features, so I decided to cover it because I'm shy and I don't want to be identified. I kind of want to remain anonymous for a little while, I think, and just be referred to as the Nosy Witch. So yeah, that is why there is a plaster on my wrist. It's not because I'm embarrassed by the tattoo or the quality is bad. I mean, the quality isn't great because I got the tattoo when I was like 15 in some random man's house, so it definitely wasn't legal. So the quality, it's not the best, but I'm not ashamed by it or anything. I don't hate it. I just don't want to show it on my channel due to it having identifiable features. Maybe that's just me being really paranoid, I am a Scorpio, so maybe that's me being ultra paranoid because other than the friends I've told about my channel in real life, I don't think anyone would find this channel necessarily unless I told them about it, but you never know. So yeah, that's why the plaster is there. You might just notice that more going forward because obviously we're getting into spring and summer, which I'm really excited about, but that will mean that I'm wearing more short sleeve stuff, and yeah, so I might have a plaster on, and if you notice it, then that's why. I just wanted to clear that up in case you thought that it looked a bit dodgy. We are about to get started and have a look at the piles in just a moment. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. Thank you to every single person who has liked any of my videos, who's commented, and who has subscribed. It just does mean such a lot to me. It means the absolute world, and just thank you so much. And if you haven't done any of that, but you kind of like my style of content, or you kind of like me and you want to stay here, then please consider doing that. It would all just help support me in this channel and help me grow as a content creator, and it would just encourage me to keep doing these readings knowing that you are enjoying them and you want to see more of them. As usual, please bear in mind that these are collective readings. Not every single detail is going to resonate for you, and that is more than okay. I wouldn't expect every single detail to resonate. If you are finding that nothing in the reading is resonating for you throughout the energy check, then please feel free to go back and choose a different pile. If for whatever reason you are finding that none of the piles are resonating with you and your situation right now, that is also okay. We are very fortunate that there are plenty of other readings and plenty of other readers out there on YouTube for us. Maybe this reading isn't for you right now, maybe it will be at some point in the future. These readings are intended to be timeless, so if the reading is not for you now, you are more than welcome to go away and come back whenever you like, when this reading might be more aligned with the situation going on in your life. Like we usually do, we are going to be starting this reading by you choosing from one of these four piles. These piles consist of a few oracle cards. We will use the oracle portion of the reading as a little bit of an energy check so you can confirm that you chose the right pile. I would recommend you using your intuition and allowing your intuition to guide you to the pile you are most drawn to. If you are finding that you are disconnected from your intuition for whatever reason today, then please feel free to use a random number picker online in order to pick a pile for you. Please use the oracle portion of the reading as a little bit of an energy check. Then in the second portion of the reading, we are going to move on to the tarot, and that will be a bit of a deeper exploration. So it won't just be about the fears you have carried, but it also may be about how you will be stepping into your power and how you will be overcoming these fears in the upcoming future. So for the piles today, I decided to do a moon theme with the stickers. I just thought it was quite fitting for this reading. You know, the moon often talks about concealed emotions, our subconscious, the things that are hidden, secrets. So with this reading today, I'm hoping to set the intention that we are going to uncover some of those hidden emotions that are in relation to fears that maybe you have been pushing down, that you have not acknowledged, fears that have been carried over from this past life or this past version of you. We are hoping to uncover all of that. So I thought, the moon was kind of on theme for discussing that kind of topic. Okay, so let's have a look at each of the piles. Over here, we have pile one and the candle. That is pile one and the candle. Over here, we have pile two and the window. We have pile two and the window. Over here, we have pile three and the moon with the flowers. Pile three and the moon with the flowers. And over here, we have pile four and the hand. We have pile four and the hand. So once you've chosen the pile that your intuition is calling you towards, please go to the description below or go to the pinned comments below, and that should tell you a little bit more about your reading, but also it will take you to the timestamp that corresponds with your chosen pile. Please let me know what you think of the reading when you've had a chance to watch and listen. That will be absolutely amazing. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you in your reading collective. Hi Pile 1 Collective, welcome to your reading. If you chose Pile 1 and you chose the candle sticker, this will be your reading. This reading is all about fears you have carried over from a past life. If you do not identify with having a past life, please interpret this reading as fears you have carried over from a past version of you, a past iteration of you in this life. If you prefer to look at it that way, that is absolutely fine. We are also going to be looking into how you are overcoming these fears and stepping into your power. I know I already said it in the introduction, but I always want to say here as well, in case you don't get a chance to listen to the introduction or you just don't want to. Thank you so, so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I notice every single like, every single comment, and every single subscriber, and I'm just so grateful for all of you for helping support me and this channel and helping us grow. And if you haven't done, any of the aforementioned things, please do that. It would just help me so much, and it would help me keep making the content that you like. And as I did also mention in my intro, this reading today was suggested to me by a commenter. So if you would like to make suggestions for other readings you'd like me to do going forward, I am very much open to ideas. So yeah, just comment below if you want to see me do anything in the future in terms of reading topics. Without hesitation, let's just get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you, Pile 1. Okay, so we have memories, we have Emerald and Milk Thistle, Heal the Healer, and we have Help. So pile 1, the only card that has a number on are the oracle cards from the Voice of the Soul's Oracle, and this has the number 2 on. So it could be that for some reason the number 2 is significant to you. You could have been seeing a lot of the number 2 around. You could have been seeing 222, a lot of synchronicity in that way. That doesn't have to be the case, but if you have, this is just confirmation that you have chosen the right pile. So we have an interesting set of cards, really, pile 1, because with this Heal the Healer card and with this Help card coming through, I feel as though in your past life you could have actually been a healer of some kind. Now, obviously, this is going to be very different for each individual person, and this is a collective reading. So, again, bear in mind that I won't be able to go into specifics in the way I would if this was a personal reading. But with all this healing energy coming through and about help, it makes me feel that one of your fears, pal 1, is you are actually scared to step into your full power and access your full capacity for healing yourself and others. And I know that sounds quite strange, but it's like I feel with this memories card as though there might be some sort of trauma that's stored in your body, something you remember from a past life or a past version of you. And it could have been that in whatever sort of profession you had in your past life, or just whatever you did on a day-to-day basis in this past life, it's like a part of you remembers a time when you weren't able to heal or help someone in the way that you wanted to. And I think now in this life or in this version of you, it leads you to constantly sort of be doubting yourself, doubting your own abilities, doubting your capacity for healing, not fully believing in your ideas. Maybe you feel kind of in a stagnant energy right now, like you haven't been able to fully take charge of your life. I feel as though you are somebody who, you have the capacity to do a lot more with yourself and with your life than what you are currently doing in this moment. You have so many brilliant ideas. You have some quite advanced ideas, and I feel like something that is coming through is that maybe in terms of like healing, you had some quite advanced ideas in your past life, especially if we're talking about a sort of time in history, particularly in this past life. It could have been that your ideas in terms of how we as humans are able to help and heal other people, they could have been seen as, they could have been put down at the time that you were alive in this past life. It could have been that you were underestimated. And I feel like now the fear that you have carried over is that you now continually underestimate yourself. You don't believe in your abilities, which is such a shame because, Pal 1, you are so, so incredibly powerful. You have such a capacity to not only think of these ideas, but also bring these ideas into fruition. It could be the version of you who you are at the moment in this life. You might feel as though you have some out there ideas. It might feel as though you haven't been able to fully live up to your potential. You might deal with a lot of imposter syndrome. I'm getting that phrase coming through quite strongly. So it could be that you deal with imposter syndrome. I think deep down, your soul knows that you are destined to do something. There is something that you want to put out into the world that you feel could be healing to other people. You feel like it could benefit the world. You feel like it could offer some kind of positivity to humanity in some way. But I think you deal with a lot of self doubt, and I think you struggle with knowing how to get started because I think you have this toxic belief pattern that makes you feel as though you will be shut down, your ideas won't be listened to, you will be ridiculed. I think ridiculed is the word I'm getting because maybe at this time that you were alive in this past life, or even just this past version of you in this life, however you want to interpret it, it's like you were put down, your ideas weren't really listened to. And, especially if you identify with being a feminine or something like that, historically, obviously, women have been oppressed, and, that is still going on today. But if we are talking historically, how things were at a certain point in history, in terms of like there were no sort of women writers and things like that. I don't know why I'm getting the writing example. It could be that you are a writer, and actually, rather than doing something like healing in terms of, being a medic or creating medicine or anything like that, which could well be the case, but it doesn't have to be. It could be that, you like to write in a way that will heal people. You really understand humanity. You really understand mental health. You are a very empathetic person. And I don't know why I'm getting the writing example. And I say there were no women writers. Obviously, there were women writers. There were women who were supremely talented, supremely powerful. There were women who had brilliant ideas that could have really helped humanity. I think women had a lot of input in the things that we have put men's names on in terms of inventions and things like that, things that have benefited humanity. But obviously, women weren't allowed to do this openly at a certain point in history. In terms of writing books and things like that, it was a male dominated field, and women could do it, but they would have to put a man's name on it. They would have to write under a pseudonym. It couldn't be known that this was a woman putting ideas out into the world, a woman being seen and not heard. So I feel like maybe that was you in a past life. It felt like you weren't able to express your ideas because maybe at the point in history that you were alive in this past life, it's like you physically couldn't. You were oppressed. You weren't allowed to deliver the ideas that you had. You weren't taken seriously. People thought your ideas were too out there. Maybe they dismissed your ideas as crazy at this certain point, or maybe it's just simply due to who you were. Like if you were a woman, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be that you were a woman. It could be that you were from a certain demographic that was oppressed. So if you were a person of color, or you were disabled, or you were just from a certain community that, people didn't give a voice to, it's like your ideas in that past life were shut down because of who you were, because you weren't living in a time that would be open to those ideas, that would be accepting of them. And now it's like you've taken some of those fears. And even though we live in a different time, and yes, people from those communities still struggle with things like being oppressed, but it's obviously not in the same way as it was then. It's in a different way. But people from those communities, we are now allowed to make our voices heard at the very least. But it's like you still carry some of these fears over from this past life. And for some reason, it's like you feel as though you can't put your voice out there. You can't share your ideas. You can't bring your creations into fruition because you are still struggling with so much of this imposter syndrome. And again, like feeling as though you will be looked down on, feeling as though you won't be taken seriously, feeling as though it's just a big lack in confidence, I think. So, one of the fears you have carried over from this past life is this big lack in confidence, in fully asserting yourself, in fully making your voice heard. And your voice deserves to be heard, Power One, because you have so many brilliant ideas. You have so much that you could offer the world. And I think deep down in your soul, you know that you are called to do something, to create something, to make something happen. But I think you're struggling in terms of making those first steps. I think a big fear that you have carried over from your past life is not only this sort of lack in confidence due to the position that you were placed in society at that time, but I think some of it is to do with complacency, because It felt like at the time you were alive in this past life or this past version of you, it felt as though nothing would change, like you couldn't do anything to get out of that situation. And now it feels like a lot of the fears you've carried with you in this life are to do with feeling stuck, feeling trapped in a certain situation, feeling like you can't get out of that mentality of being in this stagnant energy. So let's just give the example of, if you are a feminine or you were a feminine in a past life and you were alive during a time that, there was a certain expectation of women, like they couldn't have jobs, they couldn't support themselves financially, they had to rely on somebody else, and they were seen as less intelligent, they were expected to be housewives to carry out all of the domestic labor, things like that. I mean, I know that still very much is a thing in terms of some people's mentalities about women. And I'm not saying like being a housewife means you are less intelligent or anything like that. That is an incredibly hard job, bringing up children and looking after a house. And I respect anyone who has decided to be a housewife or to look after children, if they have the ability to do that. But we know that is not everyone's goal, that is not everyone's dream. And there was a certain point in history where it felt like women didn't have any other option. They had no financial security of their own to fall back on. So it could be that fear you have is not living up to your full potential, because I think you in a past life, due to circumstances, due to society, due to the time you were alive, due to certain rules and certain groups of people being oppressed or something like that, it felt like you weren't ever able to live up to your full potential, because you could have had all these brilliant ideas, you could have had these amazing things that you wanted to bring into fruition that would have made the world a better place. You could have been way more intelligent than what people ever gave you credit for at that point, but due to something that was out of your control, you maybe had to stay in this one certain role. And maybe you did help people, as in maybe you were expected to carry out all of the domestic labor in a household or something like that. Maybe you were this person who was there to raise the children, but it also meant that you weren't able to explore any of your own ideas. It could also be that you worked helping a more financially well-off family or something like that, like you were the help or something, and you were way more intelligent than what people gave you credit for. You had all these ideas, but it felt like there was nothing you could do. You knew that just because of who you were as a person, that your ideas, your voice would never be heard. And now the fear that you have carried into this life is that you are scared of putting your voice out there and you still not living up to your full potential. It's like you now have the freedom to be able to take action steps in order to get your voice heard, in order to put your ideas out there, but you're holding back a lot because I think you really want to make this person that you were in a past life or in a past version of you, you have a strong desire to make them proud. You really want to make them proud and you don't want to mess it up. So you have a lot of this imposter syndrome, even though I think this person in a past version of you would already be so proud of you. And I think you do have spirit guides helping you, like with this help card. I think you are very much being looked after in terms of your ideas and the things that you want to put out in the world. I just want to reassure you of that if that is something you have been worried about. I think you do have spirit guides very much looking out for you on this journey. With this memories card, it could even be that, you have dreams about being this person in this past life or something like that. It could be that you do have a lot of memories actually stored in your body or in your kind of subconscious. And you might not be able to identify, if you do have a dream about that past life, you might not even know that it is you, but it's like there is something in those dreams that makes you quite fearful. It's like something in your body knows what you had to go through in that past situation. And I think it's like you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment, because I think this person you were in a past life or in a past version of you, I think you knew that there wasn't much that you could do to change your situation. Those were just the circumstances that you were born into, the circumstances that you were stuck with. Society hadn't become as advanced as what it is now. I mean, I still think we have a long way to go, but the situation that you were placed in, it's like you had all this intelligence, you had all these brilliant ideas, and you couldn't get started because you were like almost trapped in that situation due to society and society's views and things like that. So it's like you never let yourself dream too big. That's the thing, that's the fear you've carried over. You've never let yourself dream too big. You've never let yourself get too carried away with your dreams because you are worried that you are setting yourself up for disappointment and failure. Because in this past version of you, you literally couldn't. You were blocked in some way from achieving some of the things that you wanted to achieve. You were like, right, well, these are the circumstances, like this is the hand that I've been dealt, this is what I have to do, this is just what people from my demographic have to do at this stage in history, and this is how we have to live. There are no other options for us. And it's like you've carried some of this fear into this life, and it makes you sort of struggle to get started with projects and go after what you really want because you, again, have a lot of self doubt. You are worried that you are setting yourself up for failure by investing in yourself, by investing in your ideas. So, a fear that you are going to be overcoming, Power One, I believe, is very much related to your self doubt, to your imposter syndrome, to your complacency, to the stagnant energy that you have been in. That is what we are working on, Power One. It could also be that you have a little bit of fear of trusting people as well. That is coming through with this Heal the Healer card and help. It could be that in a past life, you were left in a situation where it always felt as though you were the healer or you had to help people, but maybe you were placed in a situation where you were left without help when you really needed it. So now some of those fears have carried over in this life, and it feels as though, you can't necessarily trust people, you can't reach out to people, you can't ask them for assistance because they're not going to be there for you. I think that is a fear that you carry because maybe people, haven't been there for you in the past or something like that. It could also be that a part of you, because you have a lot of empathy, because you have this desire to heal, maybe if you were like a literal healer in terms of being like a medic or something like that in a past life, in terms of trying to heal people, maybe if you weren't able to heal everyone, maybe that fear also stayed with you. So now, like, if you have a goal, a desire, a dream in mind of doing something in a healing field, or even just putting your ideas out there into the world with the intention of helping humanity or helping make the world a better place or something like that, it could be that a lot of the fears holding you back are in relation to this past life situation of like, well, I couldn't help this one specific person or I couldn't help everybody. So you're carrying that fear of like, well, if I do this, what if it doesn't heal people the way that I want it to? What if I can't heal everybody with whatever I'm doing? What if it is not interpreted in the way that I intend it to be interpreted or something like that? It's like maybe because in this past life you couldn't save everybody, I think that is it as well. I think you're worried about like investing in yourself and your own ideas because I think a lot of the time you spend in this life is focused on other people, and it's like, oh, I couldn't possibly go to another country and do like XYZ project that I wanted to do because too many people rely on me here. I need to be there to heal them because if I'm not, what could happen? It's like this fear carried over of a time when you weren't able to save everybody, when you weren't able to heal everybody or be there for them. It's some kind of fear like that. So now it's like you're scared to take the leap, you're scared to trust your intuition and to dive into something new because you're like, oh, well, if I put all my energy into this project, then, other people will have to go on the back burner. I won't be there to spend as much time with them, or I won't be there to help heal them, to talk them down from situations or something like that. It's like you might put a lot of effort in this life on your family, your friends, and of course that is a beautiful thing. But I think, Power One, you also need to be not scared of investing in yourself because you deserve it. You deserve it, and the people around you very much deserve it as well. That is what I am getting for you, Power One, with the Oracle portion of your reading. We are going to move on to the Tarot portion of the reading, so please bear with me and I'll see you there. Hi Power One Collective, welcome to the tarot portion of your reading. Without hesitation, let's get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you. Okay, Power One. We have the High Priestess in reverse. We have the Seven of Wands in reverse. We have the Moon. We have the Queen of Pentacles upright. We have the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. We have the Star. We have the Four of Cups. And we have the Ace of Wands. Okay, Pal 1. So with these two cards in particular, the High Priestess in reverse and the Seven of Wands in reverse as well, and actually the Moon, to be fair, too. We will talk about that a little bit more, but with these two cards in particular, it definitely feels as though in a past life, there was a degree of cognitive dissonance in your situation. So it could be that you were repressing your intuition in your past life because there was no other choice. The situation that you found yourself in, it's like to stay safe, you had to repress your beliefs, your intuition, what you truly felt about things. And I think, unfortunately, the time in history that you were alive throughout this past life, I think people underestimated you, and you have carried some of those fears of being underestimated into this life. Because I think this past life that you were in, Power, it's like people saw you through this incredibly superficial lens. You know, the High Priestess in reverse can often talk about superficiality. If you were feminine in a past life, it could be that people saw you through this superficial lens of just being for one purpose. So this could be that, you know, unfortunately, Power One, you could have been somebody who you were married off young, you were financially dependent on somebody else, you were like stuck in a situation just due to you being born as who you were, as being a feminine or something like that. And it could be that you were expected to just be there to bear this person's children or something like that. You were expected to be a wife, to carry out all of the domestic labor. You were expected to be this very surface level version of what society interpreted feminines to be, or something like that. And it meant that you had to repress your intuition in order to stay safe. You had to kind of be stuck in this energy because it felt as though you had no other choice. It's like you were financially dependent maybe on this other person, and you therefore didn't have a choice. You just had to play this role that you were kind of stuck in. And with the Seven of Wands, it's like you reached a point where in this past life, you kind of surrendered. You admitted defeat with this. You gave up because there was no other choice, because you couldn't get out of this situation. You knew deep down that the world wasn't ready for your ideas, the things that you wanted to share and express that would help benefit the world and humanity. You knew that you were capable of much more deep down. Your intuition was screaming out to you, telling you that you were capable of much more, but all of this was kept hidden with this Moon card. There was a certain complexity to you in a past life, and a complexity that I very much now still think exists, but it's like people weren't able to see this. It was kept hidden, and I think a lot of the time you hid this aspect from yourself because I think it was quite upsetting when you could actually, you know, fully tap into this intuition, and when you admitted to yourself that, you know, there was more going on with you, there was more that you wanted to achieve, you didn't want to be stuck in this version of you, in this specific lifestyle. That was too upsetting because you knew in this past life that there was no other choice. Like, you had to stay there was nothing really that you could do. You couldn't develop any further due to just, you know, who you were born as or the situation that you were in. I think there was a lot of sort of cognitive dissonance. I think you pushed a lot of these desires down in a past life with the Moon card showing up and with this High Priestess in reverse. I think your soul was probably telling you that you were destined to do such and such a thing. But again, you were stuck sort of stagnant in this situation. And eventually it might have reached the point where you did just admit defeat with this Seven of Wands in reverse. You did I think there was a time that you tried to make your situation, you tried to make the best of your situation, whatever time in history this was that you were alive in this past life. I think you tried to make the best in terms of putting your ideas forward, in terms of trying to voice yourself, assert yourself, but it just wasn't possible. And I think it reached a point with this Seven of Pentacles that it just felt as though it was setback after setback simply due to the person that you were and the fact that people couldn't take you seriously at that point in history. People couldn't listen to your voice, what you had to say. It could be that, if, like, let's use the example of feminines using male pseudonyms in terms of writing and things like that. It could have been that you did something like that. I mean, not that specific example, but it could be that your ideas were utilized by a masculine or something like that, and then they stuck their name on it and claimed that it was their idea or something like that. And it just felt as though you would never ever get the credit that you deserve. Nobody would ever take you seriously, even though these were your ideas, even though that they came from you. You are the creative person, you were the mastermind behind these ideas. You couldn't ever, you were still like stuck in this box of just being this one thing. So I'm not saying that it has to be this exact example, but I'm getting the imagery of somebody in a past life being like a trophy wife and having a husband who works in a field, like a scientific field or something like that, or even a creative field, of new ideas, of developments scientifically, or just developments that would better humanity, and or just having some kind of business that he could put his name on simply due to the fact that he was a man. But I'm getting somebody who, like, you were the brains behind all of this, or something like that. And with this Queen of Pentacles, I think you have always had like that good business sense within you. This is somebody who you were in a past life, but it is also a trait. I think you have always had this instinctual good business sense, this ability to be balanced, to have a great balance between your logic and your emotions. The Queen of Pentacles, she is generous, she is incredibly caring, she can very much be like the mother archetype. The Queen of Pentacles sometimes does remind me of like the Empress in a little bit of a way, or something like that. So it could be that you have always had that kind of vibe. But there is a lot more to you than what people sometimes gave you credit for. It's like people couldn't recognize you as the brains behind the operation. And I think that made you deal with quite a lot of discontentment because you realized that not only would you never be taken seriously for your intellect, for your ideas, which were actually brilliant ideas that had a lot of good sense behind them, that had a lot of logic behind them, but also it just felt as though you had to like stay in your box, you had to bite your tongue, you couldn't voice yourself because you just felt stuck. You felt like no matter how many brilliant ideas I have, yes, I might get this far with them in terms of getting credit, but I will never be able to get the full credit for these ideas. It is kind of setback after setback. There is just something pushing me down. And it feels as though, even in this lifetime, those are the fears you've kind of brought across from this past life. You're worried that you will never fully get the recognition you deserve. And a part of you sometimes feels like, well, why should I bother? Because I won't get to put myself out there the way that I want to. Maybe if you're not in this life, if you're not like a financially well off person, maybe it's something like due to my financial situation, I would really struggle to get this business idea off the ground. And, someone in a better financial situation than me, they can afford marketing and they can afford all this other stuff to try and promote their business, to get it out there. And they will be seen, even though, deep down that your ideas are better, your ideas are more aligned with coming from like a soul place and of wanting to better humanity in some way. I think, One, you are definitely in your head a lot with this Four of Cups. I think you contemplate things a lot. And I think also you are the kind of person who has so many ideas, so many wonderful ideas floating around in your head, but you're not always able to take consistent action with them. So, one of the fears that you could have carried over is that you are literally scared of your own potential. You are scared of the brilliant things that you could do because maybe, as we've said, in this past life, you weren't physically able to do those brilliant things there would have been repercussions if you had gone out and tried to do those brilliant things. So now it's like in this life, the fear that you've carried over is that there will be repercussions now. Even if that is not the case, it is this sort of self-doubt, critical energy, because people in this past life, didn't treat you as the intelligent, bright, logical person that you actually were. It's like sometimes you see yourself through a lens of also not being that person. It's like you've taken on board some of these criticisms, and it could be that even in this life, people have been highly critical of you, or they have seen you through this very superficial lens. They have not realized your full potential, and you have kind of internalized that, and it has become negative self talk, and it has convinced you that you can't do these things when really you are more than capable. You are just scared of your own potential. You are scared of the things you could actually achieve. You are scared of the power that you hold. So it's like in this life, you could have been feeling this sense of apathy, this sense of stagnancy, this sense of feeling stuck. And for a while, you could have wanted to change something. But a part of you knows deep down that if you were to actually make these changes, then your life would change in a significant way. And a part of you is scared of being seen. You have this real fear of being seen and being heard. And I think you are concerned about not only people's opinions, people's potential criticisms, but also that people won't fully understand you. Because I definitely think in the time that you were alive in this past life, you didn't feel understood or seen by anybody. People saw you through this sort of superficial lens, and I think you are very worried, even in this life, that people will still see you that way, that people won't really hear you for the things you are genuinely wanting to say, the ideas that you are wanting to put across. But please remember, Pal One, that you have always been this Queen of Pentacles. This has always been you. You have always been more than capable. You just couldn't show it back then, but now you have the capacity to show yourself in that way, to show up for yourself. You could be somebody like with the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. You could be somebody who has a lot of ideas or who starts a lot of projects but never sees them through to completion. You could be somebody who has a lot of interest, who gets sort of hooked on things and then abandons a project. And again, this is due to the fear of your own potential. The things you could really achieve if you stuck to something, the things you could do if you were able to remain consistent and keep going with something, because you have such a lot of potential. You have the ability to do amazing things, and you are safe to do those amazing things. It is safe for you to show those aspects of yourself that have been hidden for so long. Those aspects that make you an incredibly complex, multifaceted person. It is okay for you to expose those parts of yourself. There aren't going to be the repercussions that you think there are going to be in your head when you think about this. So it could be that, you are even somebody who is thinking of putting your voice out there in terms of being a YouTuber or starting a podcast channel or doing something on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, but you are worried about showcasing your talents because you are worried that you won't be seen and you won't be validated for what you are actually trying to do, and you are worried that there will be repercussions if you really commit to this. But every time you deny your own intuition, you deny what your soul is calling you towards, you are repressing a part of yourself that needs to be seen, that needs to be put out there, that needs to be showcased. And although the box that you're in currently might feel safe, I don't think it is ever going to give you the ultimate fulfillment that you are really craving at a soul level. And I think that is something that you are very much realizing, Pal One. And I think there is kind of this element of like now or never, like I need to do something. I need to create this. I need to put my ideas out there. I need to stick to something. I think you want to prove to yourself that you can do it. But there is this sort of fear of the power that comes with that, because your intuition knows that you were destined for more. But I think a part of you is worried that it will be more than what you can handle. But Power One, you have always been able to handle this. With this Queen of Pentacles, this has always been you. And let's talk about the Star card and the Ace of Wands card for a minute. So, of course, Ace of Wands talks about enthusiasm. It talks about new ideas. It talks about a spark, often a creative spark, inspiration to do something. So I feel as though a part of this journey of overcoming your fears, Pal One, will be you being inspired again and really tapping into that creative energy, realizing that you don't have to sit and stay in your box and not be seen and not be heard. There is something that kind of sparks your soul on fire again, and it encourages you to really go after what you want, to start up a project, and also remain consistent with it, because I think that that has been a problem for you in the past because you have been concerned about setbacks. But with this Ace of Wands, it's fire energy, so it is there to sort of push you through. It's that creative spark, but it is there to push you, to set a fire under you, sort of thing, to keep the spark burning towards you accessing your goals. And with this star card, I also very much feel as though this will be you tapping into your uniqueness and actually not being afraid of your uniqueness. So if you were somebody in this past life where you were fearful of showing all those aspects of yourself because at the time that you were alive, it wasn't accepted, you weren't allowed to be who you were, this is you realizing that we live in a world where everybody's voices deserves to be seen and heard, no matter what demographic you are from, whether you are a feminine, whether you are a masculine, whether you are disabled, whether you are a person of color, anything like that. It doesn't matter. Your voice very much deserves to be heard. You deserve to show up uniquely. You don't have to be ashamed of your perceived differences, the things that you felt sort of dragged you down in this past life version of you. You do not have to be chained to that version of you. You can very much express yourself in unconventional ways. If you have an unconventional idea in mind that you feel like the world could benefit from, that you feel like the world needs to hear, then this is telling you that you are very much supported in putting that idea out there. This is something you are very much overcoming. You are getting over your fear of being misunderstood, of being misinterpreted, and you are putting an idea out there. You are creating something, you are bringing something into fruition, and it is very, very beautiful, Power. That is what I'm getting for you, Pal One. I really hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did enjoy the reading, please let me know. Please like the video, please comment, and if at all possible, please subscribe. All of that would mean such a lot to me, and I would appreciate it so, so much. Thank you, Pal One, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi Pal 2 Collective! If you chose the window sticker and you chose Pal 2, this will be your reading. This reading is all about fears carried over from your past life. If you don't identify with having a past life of some kind, please interpret this reading as to mean a past version of you in this life. If that applies more for you and your situation, please take it that way. If you didn't get a chance to listen to my introduction, or if you just didn't want to listen to my introduction, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you so, so much for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I notice every single like, every single comment, and every single subscriber. It all means the world to me. Thank you so much for helping me help support this channel as I grow and as I learn what kind of content you like as a content creator. This video idea was actually suggested to me by a commenter, so if you would like to make suggestions for future videos going forward, please feel free to do that. I am happy to accommodate in any way I can. And if you have not done any of the aforementioned, if you have not yet liked, if you have not yet commented, and if you have not yet subscribed, please consider doing that. It would help me out so, so much, and I would just really appreciate it. So, sorry, I forgot to mention, this reading will not only be about fears carried over from your past life, we will also be looking into how you are overcoming these fears. With all that said, without any more hesitation, let's get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you, Pal 2. Okay, so we have Escape. We have Pearl and Larimar. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let Go. And we have number 15, Guide. So the first thing that I'm getting, Pal 2, either in this life or in a past life, the number 15 could be significant to you somehow. So something could have happened to you around this age. Something quite significant could have occurred around the age of 15, either in a past life or in this life. Or the number generally might just be significant to you in some way. If that is the case, it doesn't have to be, but if that is the case, this is just confirmation that you have chosen the right pile. So obviously this is a collective reading, so I am getting a couple of different messages with this pile, but the main overarching message that I am getting is that pal 2, one of your biggest fears that you will be overcoming is your need to cling on to control and your inability to surrender and your inability to fully let go of the things that are not serving you in this lifetime. It could have been that in a past life or in this life, but a past version of you, it could be that you were forced into letting go of something that you were not ready to let go of. So, this could be in terms of an actual loss. And for a past life situation, it could have been that you were separated by somebody or something important to you due to a situation out of your control. So, historically, this could refer to like if you had a partner or a child, like a grown up child, or just a family member, a parent, or something like that, who had to go and fight in like a war and your family were separated, you experienced a loss, or something like that. It doesn't have to be that exact example, but that is just what's coming through in terms of like a past life situation and things that people went through in the past historically. So, in terms of a past life situation, I'm really getting that you experienced a loss via either being separated from somebody, being at a physical distance and being unable to get back to them, or something like that, due to a situation out of your control, or due to an actual loss in terms of passing away. Somebody may be passing away, I'm getting like before their time, or something like that. Now, obviously, in a past life situation, and it's going to be different for everybody. So I can't, say this isn't an individual reading. So I'm not going to say exactly what period in history this could be. But we know in terms of history, we didn't have the medical advancements in terms of science, in terms of medicine that we have today. We didn't have the technology that we do today. We didn't have the medical knowledge, the advancements in science, in technology that are able to save people today. We didn't have anything like that back then. Throughout many periods in history, we went for a long time without having access to any of that. And therefore, procedures that are deemed pretty routine today. And I say that with a grain of salt because I'm really thinking about like things like childbirth. They can still very much be deadly, they can still be dangerous. It's still an absolutely enormous thing for a person's body to go through. So I'm not undermining it in any way, but I mean, like, childbirth in this day and age is often treated like routine unless there are significant complications or unless there's a longer healing period. Or, I realize sometimes people are in hospital a little bit longer if they have like a C section or something like that. But for the most part, like a lot of my friends who have had children, if the procedure was fairly straightforward, they are out of hospital like very, very quickly these days. I know it's probably different in other countries, but here in England, I have heard of, women being discharged like the next day or something after they give birth. So it's treated routine in the way that another sort of routine operation, like a scheduled surgery, would be treated. So you think of things like that and how many people statistically in the past have died from childbirth. And obviously, I realize, that still happens in many countries. And even in this country, things do happen. So again, I'm not undermining that. But compared historically, like, it was a more common thing. Like, in this day and age, you wouldn't expect for your friend to go into hospital to give birth to a baby, and you wouldn't expect them to face those kind of complications. You wouldn't expect that they would pass away due to that happening. You would assume that they would be taken care of, and you would hope that there are no complications. You would wish them well, and you would expect the mum to come away healthy and thriving, exhausted and in pain, but healthy and thriving with a healthy and thriving baby. Whereas historically, it was just, expected. It was a commonplace thing that women would die during childbirth, and that was the routine, that women would die. This was a very common thing. And often, regardless of childbirth, people just wouldn't live past a certain age because we didn't have the technological advancements that we do now. I don't know why I just went off on a tangent about that, but it just feels as though that is significant to this situation and a situation of your past life. It's like somebody maybe got sick and passed away before their time, or somebody close to you could have died in childbirth or something like that. So I think that one fear that you have carried over from that past life into this life is that you often struggle to leave your comfort zone because you are scared of what would happen if you did. You are scared of potential losses. It's like now, because a part of you in that past life or in that past version of you, if we are saying that something like that happened to you in this life, it's like that fear that you will lose everything, that you will be separated from the things that mean such a lot to you, that are so important to you. It's led you to cling on to, things that aren't necessarily serving you. So even things that aren't good for you, you don't necessarily want to let go of. So this could be in terms of people who aren't actually good for you. This could be in terms of romantic relationships. It could be in terms of friendships, in terms of colleagues, just people who you are unwilling to cut off, you are unwilling to let go of because you hold this fear of like losing everything. So it makes you unable to fully let go. You cannot release control. You struggle to surrender to situations. You like to be in control of situations because you are worried about what would happen if you lost control. I think you are somebody who is potentially quite fearful of change. And with this escape coming through, I don't know why, but obviously it's a cage on the imagery, so it's giving me like a bird in a cage. It's like you are scared to fully spread your wings and be independent and go after that freedom. I don't know why I'm getting the word, like the phrase Stockholm syndrome or something like that. So it's like you could have stayed in a situation that wasn't serving you, that wasn't the best thing for your mental or emotional well-being, because it was kind of comfortable to be there. It was kind of, on one hand, you felt stuck, you felt like trapped, you felt like you weren't able to flourish and to fly and to, yeah, like really spread your wings on one hand. But on the other hand, it's like you were clinging to that comfort of that toxic situation, the situation that wasn't serving you. It's like you cling to the comfort and you stay in situations that aren't really the best for you because sometimes you fear the alternative. You fear, really stepping into your independence, into your power. You fear really going out on your own and spreading your wings. So, if we are talking about a romantic relationship or something like that, it could be that this other person in this life who you've been in a romantic relationship with, if they have hurt you, if they have betrayed you, if you know deep down, if your soul knows deep down that they are holding you back, they are stopping you from stepping into the most true, authentic version of yourself. It's like you have some awareness of this, but you have been scared to fully cut that cord. You have been scared to end it because I think a part of you is worried about what would happen if you did. Maybe if you had to go and be independent. So let's say, like, if you live with this person, or you are married to this person or something like that, and there are certain, financial repercussions of if you were to separate from this person, you are worried about what would happen to you and your security. It's like, although you are trapped in this cage, although you are desperately deep down wanting this escape, there is something that is holding you back. Even though the door is open for you, even though you are being guided, and we'll come to this guide card in a second, but even though you are having moments of realizing that you are very much guided and that you need to take that leap, it's like you're keeping a foot in the door, and you're tentatively maybe stepping foot out of this door, but then you're like, no, I have to go back. I have to stay where I am. I can't reach these new heights. I can't go after what I really want. I have to kind of stay stuck, like, because although this cage is trapping me, it is comfortable. I know I am safe here. I know I am protected here. But the thing is, pal two, is that you're not safe there because staying in this situation that you're in, that you're unwilling to change, that you're unable to move away from, or you feel you're unable to move away from, it is you not being able to let go of your triggers. It is you adhering to a pattern of behavior that is actually causing you more harm than good. Because, like, with where it says surrender, release patterns and triggers, this could even be a pattern of behavior in terms of your own relationship with yourself. So it could be that you are scared of fully allowing yourself to be the version of you that you really want to be due to your own triggers that to some degree you are repressing. I feel like these are triggers again, that you might have acquired through a past life situation, or if not, just a version of you in your past. So this could be in terms of you, going out into the dating world, you meeting new people or something like that. It could be that, a part of you, you're stuck in this cage. You're like, well, I'm happy in this cage. And this could be like, for the dating example, this could be like, well, I'm on my own, and yeah, it would be nice to connect with somebody, but I'm safe here in my little bird cage where nobody can touch me, nobody can come near me. But that deep soul part of you I think realizes that this is a method of control that you are using in order to try and keep yourself safe, but it is based upon false pretenses that everybody is going to come in your life and hurt you and harm you, and you are not being fully authentic and honest with yourself when you deny that part of yourself that wants to be loved, that wants to be near people, that wants to connect with people. So I think that is something that you are very much going to be overcoming. And again, I do believe that things like that can stem from, past situations where somebody has betrayed your trust, or even a past life situation where it feels as though you have been put in an unsafe situation where somebody has betrayed your trust, somebody has done something to trigger you, somebody has done something that has caused you trauma, you have been through a traumatic event in this past life that has made you feel as though you have to assert control over everything. It's made you unable to surrender because a part of you, a part of your soul is still harboring this feeling of, well, if I surrender, if I allow things to happen, then I will go through this traumatic situation again, or I will go through this massive loss again. So I think a part of it is like you fearing letting other people into your life, whether that be romantic situations or friendships. It could also be that one fear you have carried over from a past life is that you are scared to let go because maybe in a past life you were placed in a circumstance where you had no control over what happened to you, over the direction your life took. So now in this life, it feels like you have to exert control over absolutely everything that goes on. And this could even be in terms of like monitoring your own behavior. It could be that you are a very all or nothing person. So this could even be in terms of like a fitness routine or a diet or something like that. It could be that you really berate yourself when you go off the wagon in terms of like a healthy diet or something like that. You just go all in. You have to exert control over everything that goes on with you because you felt such a lack of control in this past life or in this past situation. I think this is one of your behavior patterns that you cling to make you feel as though you are safe, to make you feel like you have full control of everything that goes on in life. But really, you are betraying yourself. You are doing yourself a disservice when you are not able to be in this fully surrendered state. So I think that is one of the fears you are overcoming. You are learning how to surrender more, and you are learning how that will help you step into the happiest version of yourself. With this escape, I think you are no longer wanting to keep yourself in a small cage, in a small box. I think you are wanting to step out and explore more, and I think you are realizing that you can do that. Maybe one of your fears from a past life was that, like, you were in a situation where maybe you were caged, maybe you had an authority figure in your life who exerted control over you. So, this could be like a family situation, a parental relationship, or something like that. And maybe you escaped to try and find a better life for yourself, but maybe you ended up with somebody else who tried to exert control over you as well, somebody else who abused their power and control over you in some way. So it felt as though you made the wrong choice. And I think this has led to a lot of self doubt and a lot of your need to like control everything and to cling on to safety, even if it is not the thing that is actually serving you, even if it's not the thing that's allowing you to step into the best version of yourself. It's like, well, I'll stick with the lesser evil because you don't know what the outcome would be. You don't know what the repercussions would be of you escaping, of you fleeing one situation. You're worried that it will lead to something worse. You are concerned. You think, well, if I just stay where I am, I might not be happy, but I could be more unhappy if I did XYZ. You are not fully trusting your ability to make decisions. You stick with what you know because taking a leap feels like too much of a risk when you're not sure, what it could lead to. But these patterns, these behaviors are just not serving you. But I think what you need to realize, pal, too, is that you are very much your own guide. I think you need to have more trust in your ability to make anything you want to happen. I think you are a lot more intuitive actually than what you give yourself credit for. I think you are a lot more strong and brave than what you give yourself credit for. I think even in this lifetime, you have been through a lot of traumatic situations. And I think these situations have led to you engaging with some of this more problematic behavior of you sticking to what you know, of you sticking to your comfort zone, of you like playing it safe because you're scared of the alternatives. But I think you are a lot more brave and independent, and you are a lot more self reliant than what you give yourself credit for. And I think, you've come this far. You've dealt with such a lot in your past lives and also in this life. And every iteration of you, like, you're the one who's seen yourself through it. You're the one who's got yourself together. Even if you have developed some more unhealthy coping mechanisms, you have still seen yourself through those situations to this point, and you should not be discredited for the work you have done. Yes, you have developed coping mechanisms that might not be working for you, but you also have so much self awareness. You realize this, and you realize that there is something that needs to change. Nobody would blame you considering, what you have been through, because I'm really sensing with this pile, like, I'm getting kind of emotional. Like, I feel like you have been through so much, and it's going to be different for every individual person. But I think you tried to keep yourself safe by clinging on to things that weren't good for you, by clinging on to people that weren't good for you, by not fully accepting that you need to move on from certain things, whether that be like in terms of your own behavior or other people in your external environment. But you are having that self awareness, and you do really want to make those changes for yourself and become this more self sufficient, independent version of you, which is a really beautiful thing, pal, too. You are ready to leave the nest, is what I'm getting with this kind of bird analogy and the cage analogy. I know not everybody is looking for a romantic relationship, but I'm definitely getting the sense of somebody who wants to maintain control in that way by not allowing themselves to love or to be loved deeply by somebody else, because they are scared of letting somebody break down their barriers. They are scared of letting go of control in some way. And I definitely feel as though that is something you are working on. So I think that will resonate with some people, maybe not with everyone, but that is very much a message that I'm getting. We are now going to move on to the tarot portion of the reading, pal, too. So thanks for listening so far, and I will see you in the tarot portion of your reading. Hi, pal 2 Collective. Welcome back to the tarot portion of your reading. Without hesitation, let's just get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you. Okay, pile 2. We have the 8 of Swords. We have the 9 of Cups. We have the 10 of Swords. We have Judgment. We have the Ace of Cups. We have the Page of Pentacles. We have the Emperor. And we have the Magician in reverse. So one thing that's coming through strongly, pal, too, is I feel that due to a fear you have carried over from a past life or a past version of you in this life, I feel as though somehow you are scared of trusting your own judgment, and you are to a degree fearful of making an independent life for yourself, because you feel as though you have made mistakes in the past in terms of maybe trusting people that you shouldn't have trusted, or you feel as though you shouldn't have trusted, or something like that. Because with this Magician in reverse card, I'm really sensing that with you, pal, too, you have encountered a lot of people throughout multiple iterations of you in this life, but also within your past life, who have maybe tried to manipulate you, who have taken advantage of you in some way, who have really tried to trick or deceive you. They have presented themselves a certain way, and the reality is that that was just an illusion, that the way they presented themselves to you isn't the truth of who they actually were. And I feel like, now you have realized some of this, it's like you are doubting your own intuition. You are unable to fully trust yourself, and that has led you to clinging onto this sense of control. It has led you to maintaining the status quo in a way. It has led you to stay in your lane and just stick to what you know. Because when you stick to what you feel as though, nothing could surprise you, nothing could shock you, and nothing could shatter your illusion. So, this could be in terms of your inability to trust other people as well, your inability to maybe open up to other people because you feel as though you've opened up to the wrong people in the past or something like that. And I'm also being called to just reassure you, pal, too, that you trusting someone or feeling as though you've trusted the wrong person has no reflection on you. People breaking your trust, it only says something about them. It is a reflection on them. You haven't done anything wrong by trusting people, by letting people in. But I think you are doing yourself a disservice when you say to yourself, I am never going to let in anyone again, because not everybody is going to be like the people who you have encountered in your past. And I definitely think you have done a lot of work in terms of developing yourself spiritually. It could have been that you have gone through a spiritual awakening of some kind recently. You feel as though something has to change. You are not happy feeling stagnant in the energy that you're in right now. And you do want to establish more of a life for yourself, and you do want to put yourself out there, whether that's in the dating world or in terms of making friends or just in terms of not being willing anymore to stay in your box, to be trapped in a cage. You want to live your life with full authenticity. You want people to see the real you. And I think you are becoming more accepting of that version of you that needs to be seen. So maybe you present yourself on the surface as somebody who is like, not emotionless, that's not the right word, but who maybe doesn't get hurt as easily as what you actually do. And I think you are learning to become more vulnerable, but also you are not betraying yourself by staying in situations that are no longer serving you. Like if you have in the past, stuck with somebody, like in a past life, if this was your only option to stay with somebody who was betraying you or who was putting up an illusion and who they actually were didn't align with that illusion that they had presented you with, if you had been trapped in that situation, because I'm getting like with the Eight of Swords, it felt as though you were trapped, you were victimized, you were helpless. And with the Nine of Cups, it could have been that, you were in this one situation in the past where you were trapped. And it's like maybe you felt as though you could escape that situation and some of your wishes were being fulfilled with this Nine of Cups. But with this Ten of Swords, it kind of leads me to believe that whatever situation you escaped in that past life or in this past version of you, it led to more betrayal and this further feeling of victimization. And it led you to believing that you have made the wrong choice and therefore you will always make the wrong choices and that you can't be trusted to make your own choices. So, this could apply to either a past life situation or a past version of you. It could be that you had a difficult relationship dynamic with your parents or family members of some kind or a partner in the past or something like that. And you were able to escape that situation, and it took you a lot of courage in order to be able to do that. It took a lot of your strength, your energy to flee that situation. And you fled the situation with the false promise of your wishes coming true, you being granted fulfillment and satisfaction with this Nine of Cups. But then maybe the sort of shiny thing that you were attracted to, the thing that ultimately pushed you into leaving this first situation, maybe it didn't turn out how it was supposed to turn out. So, in terms of like a romantic partner, this person, Ten of Swords person, could have presented you with an illusion of like, yep, I will take you away from this Eight of Swords situation. I will make things better. I won't be like this person. I will give you a nice life. I will grant all your wishes. I will do this. I will do that. It seemed too good to be true because it was, but I feel like that has made you feel like you can't trust yourself, like you can't trust your own judgment. Again, like you can't make your own decisions. But I think what you need to realize, and I think what you are realizing, pal, too, is that when we are backed into a corner and we have to make a choice to escape a traumatic situation. We are not operating from a place of being in touch with our intuition. We are not fully able to make a decision based on our own wants and our own intuition. Our focus is escaping that traumatic situation. Our response, our decision, it comes from a place of trauma. So you have to forgive yourself if you feel as though you went from one bad situation to like a worse situation or a situation that was equally as bad. This is a trauma response. It is coming from a place of that deeper wounding. It was not that you were ever out of touch with your intuition. It was that you were presented with two choices and you tried to go with the lesser of two evils, but you were very much in survival mode. So it wasn't really your decision. You didn't have full autonomy because your main focus was survival. You didn't have the privilege of having multiple options to choose from. You maybe didn't have the privilege of being able to go your own way or anything like that. So please don't feel bad if you feel as though you made the wrong decision, because ultimately that came from a place of trauma. But I feel as though with this Ace of Cups card, this fear of your own ability to make a decision, this fear in terms of trusting yourself and of lacking in that self trust, I think you are developing that sense of self awareness, and that will enable you to make the decisions that are more aligned with who you truly are going forward. How to, I definitely feel as though you are somebody who could have had this big spiritual awakening in, I want to say recent years. I'd say maybe from like COVID onwards, like maybe 2020 or something like that, was the start of you awakening to this deeper sense of who you really are. And I feel like a lot of you overcoming these fears will be you acknowledging that you weren't ever wrong for making some of the decisions that you have made. You were doing that from a place of just trying to survive and just trying to get by. But you are very much realizing that you don't have to stay stuck in situations that aren't serving you due to fear of making the wrong decision or something like that. I don't know why I am getting this message, and this might only apply to a couple of people, but it could be that you are in a romantic partnership at the moment that is no longer aligned with you. It could have been that you feel as though this person has betrayed you, but in many ways you are clinging on to this person as a safety net of some kind. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. This could be a friendship or a family member. It feels as though you can't fully let this person go. And it could be that you are worried about judgment in terms of people feeling as though you have made the wrong decision. Like when we got that guide card in the Oracle, I think that guide card was showing up to encourage you, pal, to really trust yourself and ask yourself, are the things you are doing at the moment aligned with who you truly are? Or does it feel as though you are betraying yourself? So it could be with this judgment card that, like, if you are in this partnership and you have children with a person or something like that, it could be that deep down, because you are very much this emperor person, and we will talk about that in just a moment, but because you are this emperor, because you are very aware that your soul and what you want at a deeper level is no longer in alignment with this person, you might be aware that it is a bad situation, but you are worried about judgment, maybe from other people or of other people perceiving you as having made the wrong decision. So let's say if you are trapped in a way in this partnership, you feel like it is your safety net, it is your comfort zone, you can't get out of it. Maybe like if you have children with this person and you are worried that you would be setting a bad example for your children if you were to separate from this person or something like that. Please understand that the best possible example you could set for children or anyone in your life who you want to set a good example to is that we can be independent, we can assert our boundaries, we can trust our own judgment, we can make our own values based decisions. We should not settle for things that are not in alignment with ourselves. we should not betray our own selves by tolerating other people's disrespect and betrayal. Of course, if this is a marriage or a long term relationship, I'm not saying that, the first time somebody does anything you don't like, that you just end things with them and you don't talk about it. I don't mean that at all. I mean, if there is a repeated pattern of this person disrespecting you, of acting abusive towards you in any capacity, of repeatedly betraying you and your trust, if there is an element of you feeling as though you are stuck with this person, you don't have any other option, I think that guide card was coming through in the oracle to tell you that you are way more fierce and independent than what you give yourself credit for, and you are here to set your own example. And if you want to be a good example to the other people in your life, it is about you really stepping into that Emperor energy and showing up as your own leader, showing up as your own stability, your own support. I think this Ace of Cups moment, whatever that may be, has really awakened you to your true potential. And I think it has made you realize that you can't go on the way you are going on at the moment. And obviously, that example with this being another person or you having children with this person, that doesn't have to be the case. It could be that this is a friend in your life or a colleague or an actual job, a job that you feel stuck in, that you feel paralyzed by, that you know is no longer aligned with who you want to be and your life purpose or something like that. Or it could just be your own pattern of toxic behavior that you are hoping to release, that you need to surrender, you need to let go of this control in order for you to feel truly empowered and able to access all the happiness that you deserve. And I think, pal, too, you have it within you with that guide card showing up. You can be this independent person. You have the capacity to take a leadership role in your life, to make your own decisions, to be your own boss. You do not have to stay stuck in a situation that is no longer serving you. You do not have to. That doesn't have to be the life that is for you. I feel as though, Paltu, you have had so many moments where in this life, even, you have felt trapped and you have felt like, well, I've made my choices. There's nothing I can do about this situation. I'm in this situation now, and I want to tell you, Paltu, and I think your guides want to tell you that there is always something you can do to change this situation. Even if you can't make huge, big changes right now, there are always steps you can take in order to change your situation. You do not have to stay stuck in this energy. You do not have to stay stuck here if that is not the life you want for yourself. And I really think, pal, too, a way you are going to be coming into your own, a way you are going to be overcoming these fears is by you tapping into more of this Emperor energy. So this could be in terms of you developing your self-confidence. Maybe you are going to decide to access some kind of therapy. If you have dealt with traumatic situations in the past and you are working through those situations, you might be doing that with a medical professional, and you might be releasing some of the self-blame that is associated with the events that have happened to you. So it could be that at a certain stage in your life, something you've carried over from a past life is that you have thought like, well, I made this decision and I've ended up in this bad situation due to it, so that is my fault and I therefore can't trust myself. And this Emperor is coming through to show you that you are very much your own authority and you can rely on that inner voice more than what you actually currently believe. You can trust your own instincts. You can be a leader in your own life. You can exert discipline in order to go after the things that you want to do. And it's like with this Page of Pentacles, this is a really beautiful energy too, because I think you are very much still learning. So it feels like you have only very recently accessed this form of self-awareness. You have had a recent breakthrough, especially, if you are going to therapy and a lot of emotional topics come up. It could be that you've had this emotional breakthrough with the Ace of Cups, and it is allowing you to learn and it is allowing you to sit back and think like, well, actually, yes, I do have control over my life. I can make these steps towards my goals. And as well, I'm getting the phrase like you are learning that you can be loyal to yourself and you can have faith in yourself, because the Page of Pentacles, does talk about loyalty and faithfulness and being diligent towards a goal. So I feel like you are overcoming your fears by stepping into a version of yourself that is really working and focused on your own self-improvement, whether that be through therapy or through other alternative methods of accessing that authentic version of you. This could be in terms of your spiritual development and learning new things about yourself that way. But it's like you are working hard to adhere to your own values. So it's like if you were stuck in this situation and you knew that was a betrayal to yourself, like due to you being friends or being in a relationship with this other person or being in this job that you were stuck in, if you knew that every day that you were with that person or you were in that job, you were betraying yourself by remaining in that situation when you had the choice to change it. This is you now stepping into the energy of being loyal to you and of going after things that truly align with who you are. And if you knew that you were being disloyal to your heart by staying in this stagnant situation, this is you completely changing that and you going after something that aligns more with who you truly are on a soul level. I think this Emperor card is really here to show you that you are very much in control of your own life. And despite how many times you have felt helpless, you have felt trapped, you have felt like I can't change this, you are overcoming your fears by really realizing that you are the one with the capacity to make these changes, but only you can do it for you. You can't expect anybody else to come into your life and swoop you up and just make everything okay. And I think this is you realizing that you really do have the power to move mountains, is what I'm getting. You have the power to move mountains, but if you have to make those little Page of Pentacles baby steps in order to eventually move mountains, then that is what you will do, and you will remain consistent to your own growth in that way. Okay, so that is what I am getting for you, pal, too. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did enjoy the reading, please like the video, please comment, and if at all possible, please subscribe. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, Pal 3 Collective. If you chose the moon with the flower stickers and you chose Pal 3, this will be your reading. This reading is all about your past life fears. Which fears from your past life have you carried into this life, and how will you be overcoming them in this present version of you and in the upcoming future? Now, if you don't resonate with past lives or anything like that, please interpret this reading in whichever way it applies to your situation. So you could interpret this as just a past version of you in this life or something like that. Please bear in mind that these are collective readings. Not every single detail will resonate, and that is okay. You are more than welcome to choose a different pile if you feel called to do so. If you didn't get a chance to watch the introduction, or if you just don't want to watch the introduction, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for being here and for listening. It really does mean the absolute world to me, and I just can't thank you enough. I appreciate every single person who watches, every single person who likes, who comments, and every single person who has subscribed. I notice all of it, and I just really appreciate it so much. With that said, this video idea was given to me by a commenter. So if you would like me to do particular readings going forward, please give me your suggestions in the comments. Please let me know, and I will try my best to accommodate that. If you haven't yet liked, if you haven't yet commented, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing that if you like me and if you like this channel and if you want me to keep making content. That would mean the world to me, and I would really appreciate it so much. Again, thank you very much for listening, and without any more hesitation, we are just going to get started with the reading. Okay, Pal 3, so we have Etheric Body, Amber and Dawn Redwood, Rewild, and card number 32, You. Okay, so firstly, Pal 3, it could be that the number 32 is significant to you in some way. Perhaps this is an age where something significant happened to you. Perhaps this is a number you are seeing quite frequently or something like that. Perhaps this is an age you are approaching. And, you know, if you are approaching this age, I will assume that you have in the not so distant past been through your Saturn return, which can come with quite a lot of upheaval. It can sort of push us into new ways of doing things. It can present us with a lot of challenges. So it could be that, you know, you are coming out of that phase of having gone through your Saturn return and you are becoming a new version of you. In particular, I am being drawn to the imagery of physical bodies. I am called to talk about the fears surrounding you, your physical self, your attachment to your own body or to the physical world around you, to your environment. I think one thing that is coming through potentially about a past life is that perhaps the rug was pulled from under you. I'm getting that phrase, the rug was pulled from under you, and your environment, the space you inhabited, it was made to feel unsafe. It was made to feel like a space that you could no longer occupy, and it has made you quite fearful of taking up space. I'm getting the word taking up space in this life. With you being the focus on this number 32 card, I'm really getting that you are potentially my recovering people pleaser pile, if that makes sense to any of you. So it could be that you have a profound fear of actually putting yourself first. You have a profound fear of not being there for people. You often place other people's needs above your own. You feel as though that is the best way to keep yourself safe. Maybe you have been made to feel in a past life or in a past version of you in this life, you have been made to feel as though if you don't meet the needs of others, something bad will happen to you. You have been made to feel as though your space won't be safe if you don't do everything that you are supposed to do or that somebody else wants you to do. It could have been that you have been quite fearful of asserting your own boundaries. It could be that you feel as though if you stop doing things, like if you do things that are just focused on you, if you focus on your own self growth, if you focus on your own self care, it could be that you have been made in the past to feel selfish. So you are scared of investing in yourself. You are scared of putting effort into really looking after yourself, taking care of your physical body, because you have been made to feel like this is a selfish endeavor. You have been made to feel as though this isn't a worthwhile pursuit or that you don't need it, that you constantly need to be assisting other people or you need to be on the go. I'm getting the phrase on the go. So it could be that you are very much somebody who keeps yourself very busy and you are also in your head a lot with this etheric body coming through. I don't know if this is going to make sense to anyone, but it's giving me the image of somebody who is very much living life in the ether. So it's like you kind of do a lot of things on autopilot, but you are in your own head a lot. Sometimes you are doing things in the physical world, but it's like you are not really here. You could be a kind of person who is always trying to keep busy, maybe has a lot of difficulty being alone with their own thoughts, maybe has a lot of difficulty remaining present or in the moment. You could have scoffed at the idea of like mindfulness, or you could have tried it and it just hasn't worked for you because of your inability to be really present in your physical body. It could be that you do a lot of things in the physical world without really realizing, like you are the kind of person who like you might drive from A to B and then you're like, how did I even get here? Or something like that. You don't remember the drive. Or you could, put your keys in the washing machine or put your phone in the microwave or in the fridge or something like that and not realize that you've done it because you're never fully like there in the moment. You're never fully living in the moment. And I think you are somebody who is also quite cautious. Like you might sort of stay in your routine or something like that because you are cautious of really accessing that more wild and adventurous version of you. I think you approach life with a lot of apprehension. I think you worry about the repercussions of things quite a lot due to your past life experience. And in terms of what this past life experience might be, obviously it's going to be different for each individual person. This is a collective reading. However, I'm really getting the sense of maybe you having a past life in another physical form. And what I mean by that is that if you identify with having a past life, I'm getting that you could have incarnated here as a human, but in a previous life, you could have been another creature or another life form. And I'm really getting that one of your fears stemmed from having the rug pulled out from under you in terms of like your habitat being destroyed or you or your family not having a safe place to reside or something like that. And maybe a part of you in your human incarnation in this life, maybe a part of you has this deeper desire to rewild, and maybe you have this deeper desire to go adventuring, maybe to go traveling, to do something different, to tap into that more sort of courageous, adventurous side. But maybe a part of you feels sort of scared of accessing that soul level desire, because I think you are very much a person in this life where you have had a lot of obligations placed on you. I think potentially from an early age. And I feel as though you are in this mindset of like, well, I can't fully go and do XYZ, or I couldn't leave the country, or I couldn't chase after this job opportunity, or I couldn't do XYZ because I have too many obligations, because people need me, because people rely on me. It's like you maybe weren't able to protect your family or your habitat in this past life or in this past version of you, or something like that. Something got destroyed, there was this upheaval, something happened where the rug was pulled out from under you or your family. And it's like now in this life, you feel as though you constantly have to remain in the same place so that you can be there for people, so that you can try and care for people, to look after people. It feels as though you can't go adventuring, you can't go and find your own way, even though that could be what you desire on a deeper soul level. But it's like you feel unable to take the leap in that way. You are frightened of letting people down, and I think it's because people have had quite high expectations of you. And as well, I think this thing about the etheric body and about you residing in that sort of world of being in your head a lot. I'm getting the phrase like head in the clouds or something like that. It could be that this is something that you have been accused of. Maybe you have not been accused of being like fully present or something like that. And you've had a lot of people say to you, like, oh, are you listening to me? It doesn't seem like you're listening. But I feel like this is maybe a coping mechanism. You could have been around a lot of destruction or a lot of people with destructive behaviors and destructive tendencies in the past. And it could have been that one of your coping mechanisms to deal with this situation, let's say if this was your parents, like the relationship between your parents or something like that, if that was quite destructive, quite toxic, if you were around a lot of upheaval in terms of your family home, it could have been that this ability to sort of disengage from your physical world, from your physical body, is like a trauma response. It's a coping mechanism. You kind of zone out because that was the only way to keep you safe in the area that you used to reside. And I feel like one of your coping mechanisms now could have developed from that situation in terms of people pleasing. It's like, well, if I make everyone happy, if I do what they want, then I can keep myself safe. If I can keep people as happy as possible around me, then there won't be this destruction, there won't be this upheaval. If I'm just here to be here for people, to care for them, if I can just be here to be here for people, if I can protect them, then nothing bad will happen. There won't be this conflict. Like if you were in a very conflict driven environment or something like that growing up, this could relate to that, certain coping mechanisms that you adopted. And with this perception versus reality coming through as well, I'm getting in terms of like self care, again, like your perception could be that you taking care of yourself is selfish, or that you are somehow unworthy of it, or that you don't deserve it, or something like that, because maybe you've had people in your life who have made you feel that way. But the reality is actually very different. And I think a way you are overcoming this fear is by you rediscovering that, you know, we can only be the best versions of ourselves. We can only show up for other people and help take care of them when we have taken the time to take care of ourselves. And this doesn't mean just you keeping busy 100% of the time. I think this is you realizing that it's okay to have downtime, that it's okay to relax. I feel like even when you try to relax, you are somebody where like your brain never really shuts off. You can never really slow down. I mean, I'm even quite surprised that you're listening to this reading, Pal 3, because I don't always think that you are the kind of person who indulges in tarot readings. Like, you might feel as though it would be selfish and to sit down and watch like an hour-long video, like you don't deserve it or something like that. I mean, it could even be that as you're listening to this, you're like cleaning or tidying or doing this and that. I mean, I do that as well, like sometimes listening to tarot readings, but it just makes me think of somebody who always feels the need to be doing, and you never really take that time to be introspective and to really think about what you want, and you don't always take the time to look after yourself. So, one of the ways you might be overcoming your fears is by tapping into mindfulness more, learning how to be more present with your physical self. You could be somebody who you have dealt with fears over your physical appearance in some way. So, this could be in the form of ED, like having an eating disorder of some kind, or some body image issues, or just some self esteem issues related to your physical body. You could have dealt with some kind of trauma either in this life or in a past life to do with your physical body, and maybe that is why you struggle to be like in the moment and present, because you are working through that trauma. So this could be in terms of like SA or something like that. It doesn't have to be, obviously, that might only apply to a couple of people, but you might have just been placed in a situation where your body felt unsafe and you had to escape to like this place in your mind where you could just shut off what was going on around you. So maybe part of you overcoming this fear will be you learning to be fully present in your body again, and learning to appreciate every aspect of your body, and learning that, anything traumatic that's happened to you, you didn't deserve it. You are very much worthy of love and care. You deserve to look after yourself, to nourish yourself, to take the time to spend time on yourself, and your body deserves rest. It deserves to be fed. It deserves love and care. You may be somebody who has never really taken the time to discover what you want, because I think you have been so focused on making other people happy and trying to keep the peace with people around you that it hasn't always occurred to you to sit back and think, well, actually, what do I value? What do I want? What am I getting out of, this certain relationship in my life or something like that? I think now you are taking the time to really rediscover your wants and needs, and you are learning to prioritize those in a very beautiful way. That is what I am getting for the Oracle portion of your reading, Pal 3. We are now going to move along to the Tarot portion of your reading, so please bear with me and we'll get into that. Welcome back to the Tarot portion of your reading, Pal 3. Without hesitation, let's get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you. Okay, so we got the Nine of Pentacles. We got the Tower reversed. We got the Five of Wands. We got the Six of Cups reversed. We got the Page of Pentacles reversed. We got the Hermit reversed. We got the Empress reversed. And we got the Two of Pentacles. So it is interesting, Pal 3, that in the Oracle portion of your reading, we talked about these past life fears potentially being something to do with a fear surrounding like the rug being pulled out from under you, of upheaval, of destruction. So it's very interesting that we got the Tower in reverse, because this talks about, delaying the inevitable. It talks about resisting that change. It talks about averting disaster. And I feel as though you are somebody, Pal 3, in this life, throughout your life, you have tried to avoid disaster by catering to the whims of other people. You have tried to avert disaster by trying to keep the peace. And I'm not saying this from a place of trying to blame you or make you feel as though that was the wrong thing to do. I think this is a learned behavior that you have adopted as a coping mechanism due to trauma, due to difficult situations that you have, unfortunately, that was the only way to survive in these situations that you went through, was by trying to keep the peace, by trying to avoid conflict. I think you are somebody who has been brought up to be incredibly fearful of conflict. I think you are somebody who's been brought up to feel as though you are stepping on eggshells. So maybe this started from your family home or something like that, or the relationship between your parents, or the relationship that you had with one of your parents, or with a primary caregiver, or with some kind of family member who you were close to in your life. I think this is a behavior, a coping mechanism that you have been doing for quite a long time. And it feels as though you are very resistant to this change, because the rug will come out from under you if you are to make this change. It feels like everything will come toppling over. And in terms of like a past life situation, I know I referred to like the example of your habitat, your home being destroyed, that protection being taken away from you, everything coming crumbling down. So it feels like in this life, you are carrying some of that fear over from the past life. But in this life, it is in terms of feeling as though emotionally everything will come crumbling down, everything will shatter around you, nothing will feel safe anymore because you have spent so long walking on eggshells, so long considering the needs of other people, of thinking what they would think if you did XYZ, or the opinions that they would have, whether it would displease them and whether this would lead to conflict, lead to fighting between you and this person or this group of people. I think you've been trying to maintain the peace for so long that you don't really know any other way to be, but it's made you very fearful of stepping out and being the most independent version of yourself. I think you have been made to feel, again, like we said in the Oracle, that you are selfish for looking after yourself, and you're really not, Pal 3. I think this is something you need to know. You could have been brought up to believe that looking after your own needs and putting yourself first is a bad thing to do. But I'm telling you, Pal 3, that you need to be able to put yourself first in order to show up authentically and also in order to have the energy to be there for other people. You can't constantly be expected to carry the burden of everyone else's problems. You can't be expected to do everything all of the time. That is not sustainable. I won't be surprised if you are somebody, Pal 3, where you have gone through significant periods of mental health issues like depression or burnout. I wouldn't be surprised if you have been on the verge of collapse due to the expectations that have been placed on you by other people, and you feeling as though if you don't meet their expectations that you have failed in some way. This is not the case. I think you have just had too high of an expectation placed on you from a young age, and I think you are somebody who has always felt responsible for other people. Maybe this is a fear carried over from a past life. If you feel as though in this past life you weren't able to protect the people around you, it could be that now it feels like there's too much of a burden on you to protect the people around you, and therefore you're not always able to show up for yourself, to be there for yourself. You aren't always able to prioritize your needs. I'm definitely getting the feeling of you maybe being a caregiver of some kind. So you could have cared for a family member, or this could be part of your job. You could have cared in the past for somebody with a disability or somebody with mental health issues. And this doesn't have to be the case. This might only apply for a few people. But either way, if you're not a caregiver, as in like your vocation isn't anything to do with that, I definitely think you are just a caring person who feels way too much responsibility for the people around you, for keeping their environment safe, but not prioritizing your own feeling of safety. And it feels as though this has made you unable to express certain parts of yourself because I think certain parts of yourself have been shamed. It feels as though in the past you have definitely dealt with somebody who was in their Empress reversed energy. So this could either be one singular person from your past, or it could be a kind of person who you keep encountering until you are willing to break the cycle, until you are willing to not tolerate this kind of person dictating to you how you should or shouldn't be. It could be that you were taught to suppress aspects of who you were growing up due to this Empress person, this Empress in reverse energy. You could have dealt with a parental figure or, some family member or caregiver who was very insecure themselves, who was controlling, who was smothering, who was negligent, and who demanded that you cater to them, but they were unwilling to cater to themselves or cater to you. They could have only given you validation and praise when you were in the energy of doing everything that they asked you to do, and they could have expected way more from you than what they should have done. They could have placed a lot more responsibility on you than what should have been placed on you. I'm getting that maybe in the past you have dealt with somebody. I mean, this could even be a friendship or something like that. But it's like this person wanted to live vicariously through you. But if you express the parts of who you were as an individual person, you would quickly learn that this person wouldn't tolerate that. They didn't want to see the authentic version of you. They would ignore you. They would shut you out. They would become emotionally abusive if you displayed those aspects of yourself. And therefore, it's like you learnt to fall in line and to play it safe. You adhered to their rules of what you should be like because you were so conflict avoidant that that was the easiest thing to do because you didn't want things to turn into a massive fight. It could be that if you did anything that fell out of line with what this person wanted you to do, it would cause a massive fight. They would become abusive, they would become aggressive. It just felt as though they were trying to live their life through you or something like that. And it could be that there was a lot of jealousy and envy on this person's part, a lot of insecurity, because in you, they saw all the things that they couldn't be. And it made them have this sort of sense of competition with you, and it made them put you down a lot. It could be that they only praised you when you were doing something that was aligned with what they wanted you to do and be. It could be that they only ever gave you validation, that they were only ever loving or kind to you when you were doing everything that you could to please them. And if you ever said no, or if you ever said, I'm really sorry, like I can't do that, they would completely flip. They would shut you out. They would take away their love. They would not be kind or loving towards you anymore. They would completely shut down. They would abandon you. So it also made you feel as though, you had to step on eggshells in order to be loved, in order to have that support and that validation from another human being. So you just adopted these coping mechanisms of just doing what this person wanted you to do. And maybe you convince yourself, like, this is who I am, because it was just easier to be that way, because anything else would result in fights. It would result in you being ignored. It would result in you being alienated. I'm getting with this hermit in reverse as well. And I think potentially, this person could have exposed you to a lot of traumatic things. And if this was like a parental relationship or something like that, this person could have exposed you to things that you really shouldn't have been exposed to at the age that you were, or something like that. I mean, this could be in this past life, or it could be a version of you in this life, or both potentially. But it could be that this person made you feel really isolated because the things that they expose you to, it's like they put you in a situation where you witnessed these events taking place that you know that you shouldn't have seen, but they isolated you from your peers in the sense that they made you keep these things secret. So it's like they exposed you to these traumatic things, but you weren't able to process that trauma because they threatened that if you spoke to anyone else about what you had witnessed or anything like that, that you would be punished, or that they would take their affection away or something like that. They made you feel as if you couldn't open up to anyone else about what had happened, and that made you very fearful of stepping out of line as well. It's like you never wanted to disappoint this person, but their expectations of you were always so high. It felt like you could never live up to these expectations, and the more you tried to live up to it, the more they would kind of lift the barrier even higher for what was expected of you. And this could be many situations. Obviously, it's going to be so very, very different for each individual person. But I'm getting like a parental figure or a caregiver of some kind who, like, no matter what you did, I think you are scared of not feeling good enough, of not ever feeling good enough, because no matter what you did for this person, or no matter how hard you tried to please them, it's like nothing you did was ever good enough. They would continually raise the bar. They might have given you a little bit of validation for doing something they wanted, but it would never be enough to make you feel as though you would be fully loved and supported. So it's like you were always keeping busy, always trying to go after the next goal, because you were constantly seeking that validation that this person wasn't willing to give to you because of their own narcissism, because you just wanted to feel loved, you just wanted to feel safe, you just wanted to have that unconditional affection and support. And this person, I don't think they were ever capable of giving that. And I think this is something you are overcoming, like you have a new awareness. Obviously, if this is something you dealt with as a child or as a teenager or something like that, there's no way that you could have fully comprehended all of this, but it's like now if you are an adult or you are approaching that age we mentioned of 32, or you are approaching your 30s or something like that, and your brain has fully developed, which I think happens when we are like after the age of 25, I believe, from what I've read. It could be that you are coming to terms with how this person treated you, didn't ever have any reflection on you. Their inability to give unconditional love comes from a void deep within them, their own insecurity, this overbearingness they had, this want to control you. It was never anything to do with what you did or didn't do or what you were lacking. And no matter what you would have done, Pal 3, you would have never met this person's standards, because nothing is ever good enough for this person because they are not good enough for themselves. And for some reason, they took that out on you. I'm getting the example of like if this person was a parental figure and they pushed you to consistently achieve good grades in school or something like that. It could be that, if you got anything less than like an A star or something like that, they would be cold towards you. They would take away their affection. If in one subject you got a B instead of an A, it could be that they would withhold their affection. They wouldn't give you any love or support, but at the same time, it's like they expected so much of you in every other aspect of life. So it could be that they simultaneously expected you to get perfect grades while also giving you other responsibilities around the house. Like maybe they said that you had to do all the chores and that they weren't willing to do everything, and that you were like a bad person if you didn't do all these chores, but also you were a bad person if you didn't have the time to study and get these good grades or something like that. It's like the expectations they placed on you were just absolutely ridiculous. And I think one of the fears you are overcoming is you realizing how ridiculous their expectations were and how different other people's experiences were. Because I think that maybe, Pal 3, you grew up thinking that there was something inherently wrong with you due to this person's inability to show affection, to show love. I think you felt as though there was a lack deep within you and that you just weren't good enough, or, I'm never going to try anything because clearly I'm not good enough. Obviously, my peers are way better at doing this than me, or something like that. And you are realizing that that is not the case. You are realizing that affection from a caregiver should not be on the condition of you getting good grades or something equally as stupid, because it is stupid. You are realizing that you are a person who is worthy of love and care and of looking after yourself, regardless of your material achievements. You know that you have a good soul. You know that you have a lot to offer the world. And I think, Pal 3, for a long time, I think you were scared to talk about these experiences because I think a part of you actually felt disloyal to this person because they made you feel as though they'd given you such a lot, even if in the grand scheme of things, they might have given you things materially, but they didn't give you the things that you needed to thrive, which was emotional support, which was love, which was care and attention. They didn't give you all of those things, but they made you feel as if you owed them something. And maybe to a degree, you are still feeling in this present day as if you owe them something, or you have to dedicate more time and care to them than what you are able to offer yourself. That you have to put your dreams and goals on the back burner because you have to be there for this person or something like that. So if this is like a parental figure and maybe now they are at an older age, or they need you to look after them in a physical way or something like that, it could be that you are beholden to them, like you are stuck being their caregiver, and maybe they are still very demanding of you. Like, even if you have a full time job, maybe you are still expected to be their full time caregiver or something like that. Obviously, that is just one example. Take it however it applies to your specific situation. But it's like you feel as though you can't really go out and live your life because you are expected to be there for this person. And that is at the expense of your own self, you looking after yourself physically, you being able to cook yourself a meal and nourish your body and stay healthy and get out in nature, go for walks, you being able to relax, it constantly feels as though you are just keeping yourself busy. Because you still have this deep down like sense of like, well, if I don't keep myself busy, if I'm not constantly doing, I will be a failure somehow. Like I don't deserve to rest, and you do deserve to rest. In fact, pal three, you very much need it. Everybody needs it. We are all human. We all need rest. You exhausting yourself won't make you feel fulfilled. It's like you're constantly chasing this feeling of fulfillment, but the fulfillment needs to come from you realizing that you have needs just like everyone else, that you are very much worthy, that you are entitled to rest, that you are entitled to look after yourself, and also you don't have to feel guilty for talking about your experiences. And I'm not saying that this has to be in a public forum, like you have to discuss how this person was emotionally abusive towards you. But I think definitely discussing your experiences in terms of therapy, you feel like it would be a betrayal to this person, or it would be a betrayal to yourself to not acknowledge some of the harm this person has done to you, even if they have brought good things into your life as well, because maybe you feel like they have to some degree. You can acknowledge that they gave you access to certain positive things, but you can also acknowledge the harm that they have done to you if they have harmed you. And talking about that is not a betrayal. It's not something you should feel guilty about. It's something that is very much needed in order for you to access your emotional well being and in order for you to be fully honest and authentic about where some of these feelings of not being worthy stem from. So, this hermit in reverse could be you returning to society in the sense that you are now willing to engage about these topics and you are willing to admit some of the harm that might have been done to you in the past. You are willing to address it and you want to try and work on the fears surrounding worthiness that have stemmed from some of this trauma. Six of Cups can often talk about leaving home. So, this could be you becoming more independent by leaving the family home or the home where you resided with this person who wasn't very good for you, even if it's just a roommate or a friend or something like that. It could be you leaving that situation and that person behind, and that is how you are helping yourself overcome some of these fears by being more self sufficient with this Nine of Pentacles, by standing on your own 2 feet and learning that you can rely on yourself and that you don't have to seek approval from anyone else, especially people who are only concerned with putting you down and making you feel insecure because of their own lack. Six of Cups can also, talk about being a little bit stuck in the past. So it could be that you are overcoming your fears by accepting the fact that some of these learned beliefs, some of these coping mechanisms are due to things that you have faced in the past, and you could be really deep diving into some inner work to be able to access those parts of yourself that were kind of buried. It could be that you haven't realized until very recently that some of the beliefs that you've held about yourself and your worthiness actually come from this other person or this significant trauma that you have endured. It could be that you haven't realized that until just recently, and that is something that you are starting to acknowledge and work with in this new chapter of your life. I'm getting the sense of somebody with this Nine of Pentacles, because you have always been a hard worker, but it has never felt good enough in some way. It could be that you have reached a point where you are self sufficient or you can enjoy more leisure time in terms of like having a career that's more flexible, or you are financially independent enough to be able to have a little bit more relaxed time. Maybe you have worked very hard to get to a certain stage of your career, and it could be that you got to that stage. Maybe you have dealt with some burnout along the way, some exhaustion, but it could be that ultimately you have got to that stage, but there's still something that feels missing. There's still a part of you that feels unfulfilled. And I think this has been confusing to you because I think if you've had a goal in mind, you have worked towards it, but I think you felt as though you would be more fulfilled at this point than what you actually are. And I think it's because there are these underlying feelings of unworthiness that you need to work through. So I think you struggle with leisure time because it's like we say, you are always on the go. You kind of don't know how to relax and stay present and be in your physical body. So it could be that you've got to this stage where, you have more freedom, but then it's like, oh, like, what do I do with this? this. I don't really know what to do. So this could be you leaning into those parts of yourself that have felt unheard in the past, and this could be you learning that, self sufficiency isn't just about what you can achieve, the career milestones that you can go after. Self sufficiency also refers to you being confident about your own decisions and not feeling as though you have to do things in order to please other people. It's you realizing that the only person you need validation from is yourself. And when you are in your authentic energy, when you are truly listening to yourself, when you are able to make decisions from a place of doing what you value rather than fear, this is when you will feel the most fulfilled. This is when you will feel most in your Nine of Pentacles energy. So, this could also be you being more comfortable with asserting your boundaries and not feeling as though every disagreement will lead to a tower moment, will lead to the world collapsing around you. It could be that in the past you have just gone along with things with this Five of Wands to keep the peace because you've been quite conflict avoidant, because you've been scared of somebody flying off the handle at you if you express disagreement towards something they have said or a way that they have treated you. Now, this could be you becoming more comfortable with saying no to the things that you do not have time to do. This could be you becoming more comfortable saying no to the things that you are no longer willing to tolerate from other people. This could be you feeling as though you can just generally assert yourself more, that you can be confident in voicing your opinions without it turning into a massive argument. This is you realizing that you don't have to go into like fight or flight mode every time you and somebody else has a disagreement. It doesn't always mean that it will result in this catastrophic event. So I think a way you are really overcoming your fears is by you just asserting yourself more in that way. In the past, Pal 3, you could have felt like, due to the situation with this Empress person, it could have felt like you have been stuck in a place that wasn't really giving you the opportunity to grow. The Page of Pentacles in reverse can often talk about a lack of progress. It could have been that you felt really held back by whatever trauma you were carrying from the past in terms of this Empress person. And it felt as though, like, due to them making you feel as though you had the responsibility and the burden of keeping them happy, it could be that you have missed a lot of chances, things that you wanted to go after, goals that you wanted to achieve for your own self fulfillment. It feels as though you missed out on the opportunity to do some of those things due to fear of what this Empress person might think, or these Empress people, if it is multiple people. So, this could be you really no longer being willing, because of you being in this Five of Wands. I'm saying no, I'm asserting my boundaries energy. You're no longer willing to miss the opportunities that are for you. You are overcoming your fear by putting yourself first and fully looking after yourself. And with this Two of Pentacles, I definitely feel like in turn there will be more balance brought to your life, and certain people might not be happy about the changes that you are making for yourself. And if those tower moments do need to happen in certain circumstances, particularly with this Empress person, if that is a person who is still in your life, then I think you are overcoming your fears by saying, well, so be it. I need to make this change happen because I am no longer happy at being so out of balance with myself, of putting other people first all the time. I think with this Two of Pentacles, you are very much putting yourself first. And yes, you are realizing that you can still care for other people, but it doesn't have to be at the expense of your own growth and reaching the goals that you would like to achieve and being your authentic self. That is what I'm getting for you, Pal 3. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did enjoy the reading, please like the video, please comment, and if at all possible, please subscribe. All of that would mean so, so much to me. But thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, Powerful Collective. Welcome to your reading. If you chose this hand sticker and you chose Pile 4, this will be your reading. This reading is all about fears from your past life that you have carried over into this life. Now, if you missed the introduction, or if you just don't want to watch the introduction, that is fine. Just a little disclaimer that I want this reading to resonate for everyone. So if you are of a belief system whereby you don't resonate with having a past life, or you just don't believe in that kind of thing, that is absolutely fine. You are still very much welcome. This doesn't have to be a past life. This could be a past version of you. So, fears that a past version of you in this life has carried over to this present moment. And this reading will also be about how you are overcoming those fears and stepping into your potential by doing so. So, I want this reading to be really uplifting more than anything. But if you feel like anything within this reading is likely to trigger you, then please feel free to give this reading a miss and come back a different day or watch a different reading. Please remember that these readings are collective. Not every single detail will resonate, and that's okay. It doesn't have to. You are always welcome to watch a different pile, or you can even watch more than one pile if you are called to more than one. I want to thank every single person who has liked my videos, who has commented, and who has subscribed. It all means the absolute world to me, and I just can't thank you enough. I really do appreciate every single person who is here watching or listening to these readings and who has offered supportive feedback. It just means the world to me, and I am so overwhelmed by the positive feedback and just you guys being so kind and supporting me and this channel and helping me grow. So if you haven't done any of the aforementioned yet, but if you like my style of content, if you want to see more of it, then please let me know, and please leave me a like, please comment, and if at all possible, please subscribe. I do also just want to say that I'm very much open to suggestions for future videos. This video idea actually came from somebody who commented on one of my videos, so thank you very much for this suggestion. But yeah, I am very open to suggestions going forward, so yeah, please let me know if there is any particular topic that you would like me to cover, and I will try my best to accommodate that. Without further hesitation, let's get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you, Pal 4. Okay, so we have Open, we have Lilac Spirit Quartz, Community, Healing, Division, Teamwork, Freedom, and we have number 11, Duality. So first of all, let me just mention the number 11 for a moment. It could be that the number 11 is important to you. Maybe something happened to you that was significant around this age, or it could just be that this is a synchronicity that you are seeing a lot of. So you could be seeing a lot of the number 1 or 111 or something like that. And if that is the case, it doesn't have to be, but if that is the case, this is just confirmation that you have chosen the right pile. 111 could be one of your angel numbers or something like that if you resonate with that kind of thing. The first card that I'm being called to look at is this duality card, and duality is making me think of Slipknot, actually, the Slipknot song, but regardless of that, it's also making me think of you having a dual nature, you having two sides to you, and you feeling as though you cannot express one of these sides of yourself fully, like you cannot be open about it with this open card. And I think one of the reasons that this is a fear of yours, a fear that has stemmed from a past life, is in your past life, I think you being open about who you truly are, you expressing this dual nature, would have at the time maybe put you in danger, and it would have led to you being ostracized by your community if you were able to be fully authentic and honest with the people around you. It would have led you to an unsafe environment. It would have not only made people look at you differently, but it could have resulted in your community turning against you in some way. It could have been that something about who you are or who you were in that past life wouldn't have been accepted by society at the time, and it therefore made you repress a lot of your true self. You weren't able to approach the world fully honestly or fully authentically because you had to hold certain aspects of yourself back. You couldn't really showcase the real you, because if you were to do that, like I say, it would have led to a dangerous situation. It's like in a past life, you didn't have the freedom to really be who you truly were at a soul level. And I think in this past life, and maybe even in this life, I think powerful that you grew up with this sense of knowing that something about you was different or unique in some way, or that you had an unconventional belief, or there was something about you that felt different to the people around you, and it made you feel sort of isolated from your community, or it made you feel as though you couldn't fully be accepted by a community. It could be that this difference could be perceived by other people around you, and maybe you weren't fully open to them about what this difference was. But it could be that it left you feeling, even in this life, like bullied or put down by the people around you. So this could have been within a school setting. If you were like bullied for being different, for doing something unconventionally, for some reason, I'm getting like neurodivergence. So if you are autistic, or if you have ADHD or something like that, and maybe this was undiagnosed at the time you were in school, it could be that, you always felt as though you were kind of offbeat, you were unconventional, but you really felt this deep desire to try and fit in with the people around you, even though that was impossible, because you knew that there was something so different about you, and you knew that you would never be able to perform being a human in the same way that some of the other people around you can. But I really do believe that's just because you hadn't found your sense of self, and also you hadn't found a community. But I feel as though one of the ways you're going to be overcoming your fears is establishing yourself. It's truly understanding who you are, and that all aspects of yourself need to be acknowledged. And if you are neurodivergent or anything like that, that is not a bad thing. That is a beautiful thing. Of course, that doesn't come without its challenges, if that is the case, or, it doesn't have to be the case, but something similar that makes you feel othered by a community in some way, if you have a certain disability or anything along those lines, something that makes you feel different to the people and the community who you surround yourself with, that comes with a lot of hardship. It can come with a lot of struggle, but also knowing that about yourself, accepting all aspects of yourself, and understanding how your brain works, and understanding why you are the way you are, can come with a lot of doors being opened for you, because you now know how to access some of the things that you want. And I feel like this feeling of you feeling as though you won't be accepted, you are going to overcome that by discovering more about yourself, and by accepting your dual nature, by accepting all these different parts of who you are, and by establishing yourself within a community of like minded individuals, and realizing that it's not just you on your own, you're not isolated from the world. It might feel that way sometimes, it could have felt that way in the past, especially, if we're talking about this past life situation where you weren't able to fully be yourself and be open about who you were. I can understand why it feels like that, but there are people like you who are willing to listen to you, who won't put you down for being the way you are, who won't make you feel othered, who won't make you feel as though you're not accepted. There are people who are willing to accept you, whatever version of yourself you show up in, and I think that is something you are very much understanding, and you are overcoming this fear of showing up as truly yourself. It could be that, if we are talking particularly about that example of being neurodivergent, you could have berated yourself quite a lot in the past, powerful, in this lifetime or in other lifetimes. I mean, I feel like we're only really starting to talk more about neurodivergence and the gifts that can come with that. I feel like neurodivergence can be hard in the society we live in, because the way the world operates is not catered to people with neurodivergence or with disabilities. So we need to acknowledge that. But I feel like neurodivergence also can come with a lot of gifts and a lot of amazing abilities. And I feel like as a society, we've only really started to properly talk about that in recent years. But in this past life, or even in this life, you could have berated yourself a lot, powerful, saying to yourself, why can't I just be normal? Why can't I do XYZ like everybody else? Why don't I fit in? And you are starting to realize that there is a reason why you don't fit in, but also that is a very positive thing. And it doesn't mean that you need to be isolated forever. It doesn't mean that you won't find your community, that you won't find friends, that you won't have happy, healthy relationships if that's something you desire. It just means that you need to find a community who is accepting, who is loving, who shows up in the same energy that you show up in, who is willing to love people and support people despite their differences, who realizes that we're not all the same. We don't all approach life in the same way, but that is very much a beautiful thing. It's something that should be celebrated. It doesn't mean you should be shunned from a community just because you don't do things in exactly the same way that other people do. I feel like in the past you might have surrounded yourself with the wrong friendship groups or the wrong groups of people who didn't make you feel seen and heard and who didn't make you feel as though you were part of things. It could be that in the past you have been left out of your community in some way. You could have had toxic friends who would say that they're busy and then go and meet up behind your back, and then you'd see a post on social media about them doing something or something like that. And I feel like Power 4 at some points it made you question what you had done wrong, what you had done to deserve that. But I think it was not to do with you, it was to do with the wrong people surrounding you, people who didn't know how to deal with your level of brilliance. I feel like that's what it is. They didn't know how to approach you in the way that you deserve because you have so much to offer the world. And I think that is something that you are unlocking with this open card. It's something that you are discovering, a fear you are overcoming. Is learning to accept all these sides of yourself, this duality, realizing that we are more than one thing. We don't just have to be this one particular way. We can love and support all aspects of ourselves. We can show all these different sides of ourselves. Being different to someone else doesn't make us lesser than, it just makes us different. And that is fine. We are all here on our individual journeys. And I think that is something that you are realizing. And it is leading you down a trajectory of really being able to not only understand yourself better, but it's leading you to new opportunities and new growth, new chances for development. I think a part of you overcoming this fear will be you feeling supported and you working as a team with other people. So it could be that you are building an online community or something like that with like minded people. Maybe the version of you in a past life who felt this sense of being othered, who dealt with these fears, who felt as though they were very different. Maybe they didn't have access to some of the things that you are going to have access to, but you are going to feel so supported and so uplifted by a new community that is entering your life and getting like in the card it's like this is you, and these little daisies are like your little community of people who are here to uplift and support you, who are here to offer support if you are to fall, they are there to catch you, that kind of thing. So another example of this could be in terms of your sexuality or gender identity. Perhaps from an early age in your past life, you felt as though something was different about you in that way, but perhaps you lived in a time in history in this past life where that was not accepted in society. You weren't able to fully be yourself. You were forced to repress this side of yourself. So, a fear you have carried into this life is you still repressing those parts of yourself that you feel won't be accepted. It feels as though you will be ostracized for being yourself. And I know, unfortunately, there are still parts of the world who are intolerant to different sexualities and gender identities and things like that, and I'm not undermining that. Even if you live in a first world country, you might still deal with intolerance, you might still deal with hatred, you might still deal with being misunderstood to some capacity in terms of that. So, some of the fears you have carried over from a past life might be in relation to that. It might be you being fearful of experiencing some of that intolerance, some of that hatred from other people, from a community who don't understand you. This doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't have to have anything to do with your sexuality or gender identity. People always get upset when I mention that. But if you feel secure in your own sexuality and you know you aren't gay, then why are you bothered? Be secure in your own sexuality. That message is for somebody else, obviously. I often use examples from my own life and myself as a proud bisexual woman who has dealt with my own fair share of internalized biphobia due to other people's intolerance. I am allowed to talk about my own experiences because I know that they will resonate for some people, and if they resonate for you, then this message is for you. And if that doesn't resonate for you, this message is not for you, and that's fine. If it's not that, it could be that you felt this sense of isolation in terms of your belief system in a past life. It could be that there was a prevalent religious belief in society at that time, and everybody had to subscribe to those beliefs. And if you had a different belief system, it was seen as wrong or it was seen as like satanic or something like that. And this is reminding me of like if in a past life you were a witch or you were somebody who was deemed a witch or something for practicing witchcraft or having different beliefs or having different interests or honestly doing anything. Because if you look at the list of things that women historically were persecuted for in regards to them being a witch or something, it could be like, literally, I'm not laughing because it's not funny, it's actually horrific, but I think I'm laughing out of discomfort because when I look at the list, it was just like women doing anything, like women just existing. She's a witch. Like that's what it was like back in those days. I'm sure you already know this. Like, if not, then have a look at the list. I mean, but it was like women were persecuted for doing almost anything. So it could be that, you know, just because you had these differences in your belief system, in your thought process, because it didn't align with the people around you in your community, again, you had to repress it and just sort of fall in line and just be what people wanted you to be, to adhere to this belief system that you didn't really believe in because you didn't want to be shut out from your community. You didn't want to be exiled. I'm getting the word exiled, which is quite dramatic. You didn't want to be ostracized. So it could be that that is a fear that you have carried over from a past life that is affecting you in this life. You are worried about what people will say and think. You are worried about people's interpretation of you, of your duality, of your dual nature, of both of these sides of you, whether that's, you know, a different sexuality to what is considered the norm or your gender identity would elicit abuse from people who are intolerant in the community, or you have a disability that you don't feel is fully understood and you are struggling to be open about that, even in terms of like an employment setting or something. That is very much a fear that you have carried, but it is a fear that you are overcoming. You are not only accepting all sides of yourself, but you are also learning how to express all those sides of yourself outwardly and openly. You are open to being more open with yourself and with others. And in turn, this will bring you towards a more like minded community who are there to offer you support and work as a team and are there to support you in accessing your freedom, whatever that may be. So that is what I'm getting for you with the oracle portion of your reading, pal 4. We are going to move along to the tarot portion of the reading, so please bear with me and we will get started with that. Hi, Powerful Collective. Welcome back to the tarot portion of your reading. Without hesitation, let's get started and have a look at the cards we pulled for you. Okay, pile 4. We have the 7 of Swords. We have the Sun reversed. We have the 3 of Swords. We have the Knight of Wands reversed. We have the Queen of Pentacles reversed. We have the Page of Wands. We have the King of Cups reversed. Oh, I got one extra card for you, by the way, pile 4. We have the 3 of Wands. And we have the Hanged Cat, which is the Hanged Man. Okay, pile 4. So a fear that you have carried over from your past life in regards to the 7 of Swords is that it feels as though in your past life and in this life, for some reason, you have felt as though you have to be sneaky or cunning, or you have to hide certain things in order to be fully accepted. So, in a past life, it could have been the case that due to the society that you were in at the time, due to certain things not being accepted the way that they are to a degree today, it's like you had to lie about who you were. And if you wanted to practice an endeavor that was more in line with who you truly were at a soul level, you couldn't tell anyone else about it because it would result in you being isolated from society. It would result in you being ostracized. It would result in people not accepting you, not supporting you. And it feels as though that is something you have carried into this life because there are certain parts of you that are dying to be seen and heard. With this Sun in reverse card, it is really talking about a detachment from your inner child. Your inner child is calling out to be fully listened to. This is calling out for you to fully acknowledge your inner child and their wants and needs. but it feels as though you are still hiding aspects of yourself due to your fear of what other people will think, due to people not accepting you. So, like the example we gave in the oracle in terms of neurodivergence, this could be like you are scared of opening up to your employer about your neurodivergence and asking for accommodations, or just if you have a disability of any kind or something like that. It could be you are worried about asking for accommodations because you are concerned that that person will think you aren't competent. You are worried that you will be left out. You won't be accepted if you really reveal who you are. Or in terms of like sexuality or anything like that, it could be that you feel as though you have to hide a partner or you have to sneak around with a person who you really like because you're worried that your friends or your family won't accept it. Or you're worried that you can't take your partner to a work event or something like that because you are worried that your employer would be like homophobic if you are not heterosexual, if you are not in a heterosexual relationship or something like that. Doesn't have to be the case, that is just one example, but take it in the way that applies to your situation. It could just be that you have an unconventional belief system that you feel like people will reject you for if you are honest about this. I mean, the picture on the Seven of Swords is really making me laugh as well because clearly this is a dog, but this dog has put a cat costume on and the dog is saying, I am a cat, look, I am a cat. And they are putting the standards on themselves of adhering to the behaviors of a cat. And this dog will never be a great cat because they weren't destined to be a cat. They will be an amazing dog because they are a dog. But instead of trying to be an amazing dog, they will stick to being a mediocre cat, a cat that people don't really believe in, a cat that people can see isn't really a cat. And I know this Seven of Swords can talk of like sneakiness, but I don't mean it's that you're sneaky or that you're trying to be something you're not. I feel like you trying to fit into your community or to society in a way was a survival tactic. It's the only way that you could get by was by trying to fit in and trying to adhere to the standards of other people, maybe people who weren't like neurodivergent or who were heterosexual or however that situation applies to you. It's not that you were trying to be cunning in any way, it's that you were trying to survive, you were trying to get by. But instead of being an amazing dog, you are stuck being a mediocre cat because you haven't been willing to really showcase all sides of yourself and to realize that all sides of yourself are deserving of love. You are not lesser than, like, you are not a failure because you aren't able to be a cat. You were never meant to be a cat. That life was never for you, and that is okay. And I think a way you are overcoming your fear of being different is by fully accepting that you can take off this mask, that you don't have to mask all the time who you truly are. The right people will be accepting of you, and I think that is something you are very much discovering. So I think with the Queen of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands in reverse, I actually think this is the past life version of you and the environment that you were brought up in, or something like that. I think this is representative of the society that the past life version of you was around in, because the Queen of Pentacles reversed can often talk about in somebody who is intolerant, and the Knight of Wands in reverse can also talk about somebody who is domineering. So it could be that this past life version of you was stuck in a time in history that was intolerant of anything that was a little bit different. So you had to hide this part of yourself. With this King of Cups in reverse, you had to repress these aspects of yourself that didn't align with what society approved of at the time. And that led to a lot of heartbreak on your end with the Three of Swords. It could have been that literally in a past life, you were left brokenhearted due to the fact that you weren't fully able to be who you really wanted to be. So I'll just give the example of a difference in sexuality or something like that. Again, don't take it if it doesn't resonate. This doesn't have to be this specific example. Please bear that in mind. But I'm just using it in terms of talking about how things were in the past. So let's say you in this past life, you were a closeted gay man or a closeted gay woman or something like that, because I know that some people say, because I know that some people like to argue that being gay or being bi is a new thing that people have just made up, but it is not. It has been prevalent throughout all of human history. So, regardless of the time that you were here on earth in a past life, let's say you were a person who wasn't straight and you fell in love with somebody. If you were a gay man, you fell in love with another man, or if you were a woman, you fell in love with another woman, or something like that. But it's like you obviously had to repress this due to the time you were alive, due to society, due to potential domineering religious constraints, due to a belief system that people in your community held, due to other people's intolerance, other people's unwillingness to accept anything that was deemed different. And this broke your heart because you had to learn to adhere to other people's belief systems in order to fit in order to be accepted, and in order to survive. Because let's not forget, being different in any particular way throughout human history could have got you killed in some instances. So it could be that you had to be sneaky about your true feelings. You had to hide a partnership, a romantic relationship, due to the danger that you would have faced if you were open about this. And it could be that you and this other person, in order to keep each other safe, you had to end the relationship or something like that. It's given like star-crossed lovers. But it could be that you had to end this relationship and you were left heartbroken, you were left distraught. It felt like this person had been taken away from you, the ties had been severed, you were dealing with a lot of grief, and you never wanted to experience that again. So perhaps after experiencing this heartbreak in this past life, or if you don't identify with a past life, in this past version of you in this life, after experiencing this heartbreak, you felt like, well, I'm never going to open up to anyone again. I am just going to fall in line with what is expected of me. So, in terms of this being a past life, this could have been like if you were a gay man, this could have been in terms of you being in a heterosexual relationship, marrying a woman, having children with a woman because that's what was expected of you. If you were a gay woman, this could be you marrying a man, having children with a man, or something like that, because it's what was expected at the time. And you never wanted to experience the heartbreak that you had gone through when you actually were vulnerable and you actually loved someone, you fell in love. But this situation, it left you so distraught that you said never again, and you just fell in line with what the world, what your community expected of you, but also you were very shut off from your emotions with this King of Cups. So it's like you were denying your true self, and that left you feeling very repressed. It left you feeling very cold. You couldn't really connect on an emotional level with anyone because you weren't able to be truthful in terms of who you are or who you were. So, this could be a fear that you have very much carried into this life. It could be that you've convinced yourself to live a normal life, but at the same time, you've cut yourself off from your emotions and what you truly desire at a soul level, and it has left you feeling very withdrawn. It has at points left you feeling as though nobody can understand you. I think at many points in this life and in your past life, Powerful, I think you have felt always very misunderstood because I think you knew you were different from this early age. We'll talk about the sun reversed again in a minute and about inner child healing and things like that. But I think you always knew that there was something different, but a part of you always tried to push it down in the past life, maybe due to it not being accepted, or maybe you facing danger if you were to be truthful. And in this life, I think that's a fear you have carried in terms of not wanting to upset the status quo. In the past, you have just tried to do everything to fit in with the status quo, to just get along with things, to not really indulge in your true emotions and your genuine desires, because it has felt easier than putting up with other people's hate, other people's intolerance. And this has led you to feeling disconnected from your inner child with the sun in reverse. It's left you feeling a lot of discontent in your life. Because I think at certain points, maybe you've convinced yourself if you just follow convention, if you just do what's expected of you, that this will lead to happiness, but it hasn't done because this was an unrealistic expectation, because you can't truly feel happy and fulfilled when you are not aligning yourself with the most authentic and truthful version of you, when you are pretending to be something that you're not, when you are trying to live your life as a mediocre cat instead of an amazing dog. You are overcoming your fears by realizing that things will start to fall into place when you are willing to show up for yourself truthfully, and when you are willing to be brave and to understand that you will face rejection for being who you are. You will face people misunderstanding you. You will face people deliberately misunderstanding you, but none of that matters. What matters is that you are showing up as the true version of you. You are adhering to behaviors that align with your values, and you are not having to hide who you are, nor should you have to, because the right people will gravitate towards the real version of you, whatever that may be, as long as you are not doing anything to harm yourself or other people. The right people will be there for you to support you and to cheer you on. They won't put you down for being who you are, for not being able to be normal, or not being able to follow conventions in every single way. The right people will fully support the beautiful, authentic, unique versions of you, and all those versions of you in every format. And I think you are realizing, powerful, that you are able to really change the world for the better by simply being you, by showing up authentically and truthfully. Because I think you really challenge people's perspectives and you make people view things through a different lens simply by you being authentic, by being who you are. And I know this sounds really strange, but I think oftentimes people's intolerance usually comes from a sense of they themselves feeling othered from a certain community. And I know that sounds weird, and obviously there is no excuse for people being intolerant, but I tend to find, when you speak with people, they have this sort of stereotype, this notion of what they think someone from a certain community will be like. And this might be based off them and never having met anyone in person who is part of that community, and therefore just making their own incorrect assumptions. And actually, when you show up in the world as you, it kind of dismantles their expectations, and it makes them see things from a different lens. Because it could be that you might encounter people in your life, let's say colleagues or something like that, somebody who you wouldn't necessarily open up to about like personal things. Um, and it's like maybe you and this colleague in a work capacity, you get on really well, you're friendly, you have a laugh, and then they discover something about you that challenges their expectations in some way. And I don't want to give the sexuality example again, so I'll give another example. So it could be that you have a certain belief system that is deemed a little bit unconventional. So this could be like, I know it's not that unconventional now, like it's pretty common, it's talked about a lot, as we know, but you could be like vegan or plant-based or something. So it could be that, this colleague is very much like a meat and potatoes person. They love their meat. They can't ever imagine going vegetarian or vegan. Maybe this is something they're quite vocal about, and maybe you've never really like said anything to them. You've never really commented. And maybe one day they've said something about like, oh, these vegans and blah, blah, blah. And you've turned around and you said, oh, well, actually, like I'm plant-based myself. We're not all like that, or something like that. And it's like really dismantled their views on what a vegan person is. Maybe they're the kind of person who says, like, oh, vegans just preach all the time. And they refer to things they've seen in the media about vegan extremism or something like that. And they think that everybody who follows that lifestyle is like that. So you could be there to dismantle their expectations. You could have a lot of power in changing their opinions for the better. And you could help them become more tolerant. And I'm not saying that is your job, that is very much their responsibility, but there is a lot of power in you simply showing up as you. And I just want to demonstrate that, because the more people there are like you who are willing to challenge people's views in that way, and other like-minded people, the community that you help build, the more that will lead to more tolerance and a more harmonious world, in many ways. I think sometimes you've been scared of expressing your true views due to what people will think and people's judgments, but you are overcoming your fears. You are no longer willing to hold back. You are no longer willing to repress those parts of yourself. So, in that example, it's like, your colleague, their beliefs have just entirely shifted. It's totally changed. It's shifted their belief system because they're like, oh, well, Pal 4 is actually like a really amazing person. I get on with them really well. They're a hard worker. And they're also XYZ. In this instance, they're also vegan. And this isn't what I thought a vegan would be like, or something like that. It doesn't have to be that specific example, but it could just be that in whatever way you show up in a kind of unconventional way in the world, you challenge people's mindset on what it means to be part of that community or something like that. So that is one way you are going to be overcoming your past life fears. I think this Three of Wands is a beautiful energy in particular because I definitely think you're going to be stepping more into your sun energy. And I say that because the Three of Wands, it does talk about confidence and about looking ahead and expansion. And it just obviously makes me think of fire sign energy. So maybe you stepping into a more brave, courageous Leo energy in terms of you being more yourself than ever before. But it's also you looking ahead and having the foresight to say to yourself, not everybody is going to accept every version of me, and that is okay as long as I accept the version of me that I am, and as long as I am showing up in the world authentically and I am approaching the world through the lens of being who I truly want to be, then that is the main thing. Not everyone is going to accept me, but it doesn't mean that I will be ostracized by everyone forever. It doesn't mean that I can't open up to people. I will find my own community when the time is right. I don't have to make myself a lesser version to fit in with what society wants me to be, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So, with this Three of Wands and the Page of Wands, actually, those two together, that is giving me more of the sense of you stepping in to that sun energy again. Like with the Page of Wands, this is you being more adventurous, stepping out of your comfort zone, becoming more extroverted because you're no longer willing to hide certain aspects of you just to fit in with other people's expectations of you. You are learning that when you don't have to put on a mask, when you can put on this flower crown instead of your cat mask, you can fully be a more extroverted and cheerful and confident version of you, and things will start to fall into place more when you are able to do that. So, those are the messages that I am getting for you, Pal 4. I really hope that resonated. If it did resonate, please let me know. Please like the video, please leave a comment, and if at all possible, please subscribe. All of that will mean so, so much to me, and I would appreciate it so much. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.